Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Global Microsoft Student Summit. I am Khushboo Verma, and today I'm joined by Scott. Hey, Scott, how are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm doing excellent as well. So, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I'm just excited to be here to talk to all the young people at the Student Summit, the folks that are early in career that are coming in today. We're going to hear from all kinds of folks about their journey into tech. And I'm excited that you and I kind of represent the best of Microsoft, both people who've been here a long time and people who are just getting started.
Yeah, that's so exciting, that students here are here to interact with the local student communities and hear from Microsoft leaders, cloud advocates, MVPs, and Microsoft Learn student ambassadors. So, why don't we start with your journey into tech?
Well, I'm not sure. We should compare journeys, I think, you and I. So the first time I ever saw a computer, I was 12, and my grade 5 teacher brought a computer into the room that the entire room could share. So we didn't have individual computers, but we had one computer that we could all take turns on, and we had a sign-up sheet. We could say, I want to use the computer at 4 o'clock. When was the first time you ever saw a computer?
I think I was also in school at that time when I first saw a computer, but my first interaction with programming wasn't until I was in class 9th or 10th when I first got to know what HTML was, CSS was. I think that was my first interaction with computers. But I think the students here today who are joining us might have had, different experiences with computers as well. Some of them might have been introduced early on. Some of them might be having their first interactions lately.
And that's what's exciting, is that so many different people came into tech in different ways. Some people, their first computer might be a phone or a tablet. It might have been a laptop. It may have been one that was given to them, or it may have been one at the library that they would visit, like me.
Yep. In fact, I remember when I was in school, I was least interested in tech. And today I am a software engineer at Microsoft. And I think communities have played such an important role in my journey because when I entered university and I got exposed to these wonderful communities, especially Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador community, I got, exposed to such diverse set of opinions, such diverse set of ideas, possibilities to learn, and so many resources. So I no longer felt like I was restrained to any demographic or any university. I had the internet, I had all the resources, and all I had to do was learn. So, what advice do you have for the students who are joining us today? How can they learn to the best of their capabilities and make the best out of the summit?
I think that you said it right when you said it was about community, right? Once you find computers, you find tech, the next step is to find your people. And your people might be based around your identity or your location. It might be based around your technology. So you might want to find your C# people, right? Or you might want to find your university, study group, and then spend time with them, whether it be virtually, like we are right now, or if you can, in person. When I was coming up, we found user groups and get-togethers, right? And being able to have just a dinner or a lunch with like-minded people to talk about tech is so important because it reminds us that we're not alone. And when our students from the Student Summit here perhaps come and join Microsoft in the future, they might initially feel very alone, like, okay, now I've made it, I'm inside, I'm at a big company, now what do I do? The way that you solve that is by finding friends and colleagues to work with, to study with, and for support. And that support is so important. And that's why it's great to have student summits like this to let people know that they're not alone.
I completely agree to that. And I think one of the best things about working at Microsoft is the growth mindset that the company promotes. So it's like we embrace challenges. We are not afraid to try out new things or step out of our comfort zone. And this is something that I would also tell to my younger self, right? Someone who was absolutely afraid to go out and meet new people, try out new things, or stepping out in uncomfortable positions and trying to learn something new and having that fear of being a beginner. But I think that here we have this growth mindset, and it means that, okay, we can embrace our failures and we can be a beginner at something. But if we rely on each other, if we go and ask for help, and if we network with the right set of people, then there's nothing that can't be achieved.
I'm curious, how do you how do you ask questions inside the company and be not worried that someone will judge you because you're asking a dumb question? Because I don't think there's any dumb questions, and I want people to ask. But I'm curious, do you ever feel like nervous? I don't want to ask that question.
Oh, no, definitely not. I think initially I used to feel that, but I understand that the culture here is very supportive, and everyone who, joins straight out of college, it's definitely understandable that they have probably not worked on a certain set of technologies, but as far as they're comfortable with the basics and they have the curiosity to learn, they can figure things out. So I think most of us here are figuring things out every single day, and the peers here are very supportive. So if someone comes up to me and asks me for help, I would be more than happy to help them. And similarly, if I go to someone, they are always so supportive that I've never felt like, I am shy of asking questions or anything. And this is what I would suggest to, people who are here today as well, that if you're starting out, ask as many questions as you can, because as Scott mentioned, there are no wrong questions or no dumb questions.
Yeah. I think another thing that you said that I think is very important is understanding the basics. So like, what are the basics? I think a lot of folks, when we are learning in school, we focus on for loops and syntax and this language and that language, but we kind of forget about characteristics of computers. How much latency is in a system, memory, CPU, network, no matter what language you're using, no matter what system you're building, these things are all still computers. So understanding the basics, do you think that's a really important part of being a software engineer?
Oh, yes, definitely. There are so many technologies that I've worked on so far. And the only thing that I've understood is that if you are comfortable with the basics of one language, then it is very easy for you to switch between multiple languages. I remember when I was in university, I was so confused whether I should get started with web development or should I get into Android development or should I pick up machine learning? Because there are so many technologies and everything is evolving so fast that it's almost impossible to know everything. But one thing that I've learned so far in my journey till here is that if you're comfortable with the basics, if you understand problem solving, then there is no such problem that you can't solve.
Yeah, problem solving is a big important thing. And the fact that what's the difference between an early in career and a later in career person? Is it that I know more? It's actually the fact that I've been able to exist in this space for a long time. So when it seems like I know stuff, it's really that I've just seen it before. And that's what's great because we want you, Khushboo, and we want our friends who are going to come and join us at some point in Microsoft to stick around for 5, 10, 20 years so that they too will have the gift of having seen it before. And the difference between an early in career engineer who maybe will go and Google with Bing for the instructions and the answers, and someone who's been around a long time is just that I've seen it before. So I don't have to search because I'm like, oh, I remember 5 years ago when I hit that same error. And I want everyone to have that feeling of knowing the answer.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like there are so many things that even I'm getting comfortable with. So that is the thing that you just figure out in the process. There will not be any point where you'll have figured everything out. So it's the journey and you'll keep on figuring out things every single day. But
Yeah.
Scott, I have one more question for you. What is some advice you would give to people who are attending today? How can they make the most out of this summit?
I would see if you can connect with some people. We're going to see folks on social. We're going to have opportunities to meet and chat with people. Find a natural opportunity to find your tribe, find your group of people that are interested in the technology or the social change that you're interested in, and see if you can spend some time with them. Because when the summit's over, what happens then? Right? So maybe the summit happens and you can connect with your student ambassadors on the campus that you're at. Or maybe you go and join a local user group that isn't a student-based user group and like start to slowly enter that professional space.
Yes, I totally agree. Like, even at the Microsoft Student Summits that I have attended as a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, the best thing that I found about it was the collaborations that resulted after the summit. So, I meet people from different backgrounds, different universities, even different nationalities. And then the collaborations that come out of those events is something that I forever cherish because it gives me an understanding into how different communities operate. And I do understand that each local community has its own different set of challenges, problems, and their own goals and visions, and the exposure that these events lead us to, I think it's wonderful. And I should think everyone should uh, leverage this opportunity to make the most out of it, network with the right set of people, and learn as much as they can.
Yeah, you're very wise, Khushboo, and I think that our friends who are here at the Student Summit can learn a lot from you and your journey. So I appreciate you bringing me along for the ride this morning.
Thank you so much for being here. And now let's hand it over to our local hosts.
Hello, everybody. It's so great to see so many people live on the stream. That was a fantastic introduction video. Welcome to the EMEA Student Summit here at Microsoft. I'm joined here with two of my fantastic colleagues from around the world. Like I said, EMEA, this is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So my name's Liam Hampton. I'm a regional cloud advocate based out of the Microsoft Reactor here in London in the UK. And I'm joined today with Korey and Hadeel. Say hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Yes, super happy to be here. Feels like it's been months in the making today. So it's amazing to finally be here doing the Student Summit and meeting everyone and talking about what we're going to be doing today.
Yeah, I agree. Being connected to, students from all around the globe, from wherever they are joining us is absolutely like the event of the year. So we're very excited to have everyone here. Very happy to host this as well.
Yes, 100%. So this is actually going on all around the world, and we are hosting our region. So Korey, you're from Sweden, and Hadeel, you're from Dubai in the UAE. So it's great to have you on here, and we're going to be your host today. So before we get any further, please take a second to read our code of conduct. It is super important that we abide by this. So please be respectful, please be kind, and just have fun. Ask lots of good questions. The chat is open, and I'm going to let Korey take through Menti, which is our collaboration board for the day. So Korey, I'm going to hand this one over to you.
Great, thanks. So I'm not the only thing coming from Sweden on this Student Summit. We also are going to be using Menti, a proud Stockholm product, because we want to hear a lot about what you want to know about and how you experience the Student Summit. So we have some questions for you. The first one is talking about where you are joining from. I see a lot in the chat already, which is great. But if you go ahead and scan that QR code and you put in the code down there, either you go to menti.com and enter that code, you will be taken to a question or a map to indicate where you're calling from or joining us from. And let's see, if we go ahead and check out that map, hopefully we'll have some people. Ooh, wow, okay, I love it, the action already. I'm really terrible with geography. I don't know how you, Hadeel, or Liam are, so I'm not going to try to guess where some of these countries are, but there is one that's really building up. I'm hoping that's somewhere, maybe France. I don't know, Spain. It doesn't give me those views.
To see, right? The EMEA region.
Yes,
Middle East and Africa, that's what I know.
I also like the one that's completely off the map. Thank you for joining us in the Antarctica Ocean, I believe. Cool.
Brilliant.
But we'll check back. I'm loving all the connections there, and it's really interesting to see a group of people everywhere. But yeah, what do we have today?
Yeah, so let me just kind of walk everyone through what the agenda is today. We have a pretty full-on, amazing schedule for these 3 hours, and we're joined by amazing speakers, amazing workshops that we have. So as we've seen, just to mention that, be mindful, the timings here that we have on screen are in BST time zone. So make sure to kind of, convert these time zones into your local region or local time zone. So we started with the keynote, My Founder's Journey, from the two amazing speakers that we've seen. We had Khushboo, Verma, and Scott Hanselman. Then we will be moving on to the careers panel. We're going to have a panel of amazing speakers. You can ask all your kind of career questions, anything that's related to their journey, how they got into tech. We will have an Imagine Cup launch video. Obviously, we know Imagine Cup's super exciting this year. So we're going to have a video preview to show you. Korey and I are going to have an imagination collaboration activity that we're going to do. It's going to be super fun. We would love for all of you to kind of join us on this one and get your perspective from all around the world. Then we will be having a short break for kind of 5 minutes. Then we will be moving into kind of these tech talks or workshops. Liam and Carlotta will be doing What is the Cloud? Then we have workshop, which is going to be Get Ready with GitHub, and another workshop, which is going to be to deploying a Resume site with Azure, with amazing speakers as well. Then we will have the Imagine Cup panel, and by the end of this, we're going to be closing off this amazing exciting Student Summit. So we're very excited to have you here with us today. And with that being said, let's get started.
Quite righty, thank you. So Korey, actually, do you want to take us through what people are going to need today? I see this number like creeping up massively now, which is fantastic. So just quickly run us through what students are going to need today.
Yeah, like Hadeel mentioned, we're going to be having some hands-on workshops. So while it's fun to listen and learn, it's also better to do and learn. So just be prepared with those workshops by creating a GitHub account if you don't already have one, and then logging into Microsoft Azure. There's ways to claim student credits for today. So again, you can even watch this or catch the recording if you don't have them. But again, really going to be learning something instead of just watching us talk and have good time. So that's going to be really exciting later on today. But speaking of excitement, what are you most excited about? So we already, it seems like everyone's got the Menti down, which is great. I don't want to spoil anything, but we'll be using Menti quite a lot today. So let's just see what the results are now for what are you most excited about. So we have about 100%, or a lot of people are interested in applying my skills, resources for students, which is great. We'll be sharing a lot of that. Career advice, that's great, because you're in luck. We'll have a whole career panel discussing that topic, and connecting with others and other students, which is really on brand with the keynote of finding your people who are interested in the technology and learning together. So that's super exciting to see and super great to see. That's what we want to do today.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my goodness, like this number is climbing and climbing and climbing. Lovely. So it's great to have you all online. So it's great to see you all. So what have we got up first? So we have got my founder's journey, and we are joined today by a fantastic speaker and a fantastic founder, Prisca Flint, who is the co-founder of Cocoon. Thank you for joining us today, Prisca. I'm not going to take up too much time. I'm going to let you do everything now from the introduction. I'm not going to sort of go any further. We want to give you the stage.
Thank you.
So I'm going to drop off and see you after your session.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Liam. Hey guys, I am Prisca Flint. I am the co-founder and CEO of Cocoon. I'm based in the UK in Bournemouth, right by the beach, but I'm currently in Portugal enjoying the sunshine because it's a bit rainy in the UK, and I thought, let me get some sunshine in me. So I am coming to you live from Portugal. I'm very grateful and honoured to be able to speak to you guys and to share a bit of my story. Because a few years ago, I was you. I won't mention how long it was, but I was you in this very same position that you guys are in. I was the young girl in higher education looking for opportunities to connect not only with like-minded people like you guys, but also people who look like me, people who could inspire me, guide me, and give me the courage and the tools to step out and innovate. This speech is, as much as it is for you guys, it is also for myself. And also especially that young me that I was many years ago, who'd have wanted to hear the things that I'll be sharing with some of you guys. My journey into tech and as a tech founder has been filled with many twists and turns. My love for technology has again been a pendulum swinging from one extreme to another, going from love to hate with no in-betweens really, which has been really interesting. But 10 years ago, as I watched my father recover from a stroke, I got to see firsthand how technology was used as a tool not only to help him get moving again, but live a more independent life. On that July 8th morning, I realized how technology, when used for good, is an enabler which can unleash the potential of humanity's inherent goodness. For me, that moment 10 years ago was realizing that technology can be used to bridge the gap in healthcare and social care for everyone. I realized that I could be the link that would be creating solutions that could bridge the gap in healthcare for people in underserved communities, of which my communities is one of them. On my tech journey, I found myself having different versions of myself, depending on which season I've been in. And I'm guessing and hoping that some of you will identify with one or more versions of myself as I go along the session. The first version was when I knew that I wanted to get into tech. I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be a founder. But I didn't have any ideas that were big enough or bold, or even any idea at any point that I thought could change the world. But then I moved on to the next stage of myself, which was I had an idea. In fact, I had many ideas. I had a whole book full of ideas. But I was a mix of being really, really scared and also not really knowing how to get started. So stuck in this weird space of just stuck with nothing or not moving anywhere forward. And then somehow down the line, I summed up some flicker of courage and started working on my idea. And that's how my journey started. It was hard, and I didn't know how to keep my idea forward, even after I'd started. That was my favorite season. I then saw myself go through from having an idea and launching it into a product, but it wasn't the success that I thought it would be. And then I had to start again, which is where I am now. Do any of these people sound like you? Any version of myself that you relate with? I do hope so. See, I've been all these people. I've endured the trembling fear of getting started. I've endured feeling lost, tired, and struggling to get to the next breakthrough with my tech startup. I've also endured the disappointment and failure of having to dust myself off and get going again. I've also tasted the sweetness of seeing success and continuing to evolve and develop my business. I've been you and I've been there. If you fall into the first camp, those of you that have that entrepreneurship bug, you know you want to get into tech, you know you want to be that next great founder that can innovate and build products that can make a difference in your communities, in your countries, or the world at large. I know what a thrill it is to be in that space, but I also know and understand how frustrating it can be to identify opportunities. What saved me was innovating from what I knew, my lived experiences, the experiences of people in my community. I made it my mission to see opportunities in the everyday lives of the people that I loved and knew the most. I identified the things that frustrated them the most and also the things that frustrated me. I found that no one was addressing the issues that people in my community faced, so I decided to find solutions that would work for us. That's how I founded my current startup, Cocoon. Cocoon was born out of a highly emotive, fear-inducing period of my life when I was confronted by the reality of pregnancy as a Black woman in the UK. See, the reality was, and still is, that I would be 4 times more likely to have a miscarriage, die during childbirth, or have a stillbirth, or even die within 4 weeks of giving birth than other white women in the UK. I was spurred by the shock, the frustration, some mix of anger and sadness, and I found myself speaking to women within my community to really understand their pregnancy journeys and to just validate what I was reading. As I listened to hundreds of women share their stories day in, day out for a good 6 months, I started finding common themes of opportunities based on their shared experiences, of how I could improve the journey for myself in the future selfishly, but also for other young women coming after me, for my niece, for her friends, and other women one day that would come along and want to give birth. I'm sharing this with you to say, ideas are everywhere. How I got to mine was through talking to people. So I want to encourage you guys to talk to people, listen to the things that affect them, find opportunities to improve the experiences for your generation, disrupt the industries using technology in innovative ways that meet the needs of the world and the future that you want to live in. For me, that was using Cocoon to ensure that we address the maternal health outcomes for women of color everywhere, not only in the UK. If you love crypto, find out the problems and pain points in that industry and work to resolve them. If you love sustainable fashion, figure out how to use technology to improve that industry. Opportunities are everywhere. You just have to spot them. So you have your idea, now what? Maya Angelou wrote, "I've dared to try many things, sometimes trembling, but daring still." That's been the story of my life. That's been the story of my tech journey as a founder. This is my story today, daring to give a keynote speech whilst trembling, but still daring to do so. And that is what it takes to get started. Daring to put your idea on paper. It takes courage, whether that's done through trembling or with all the gusto in the world, but it does take courage. Courage to tell people about your idea and courage to tell people about your idea and your plan so that they can hold you accountable. Courage to send that first email. Courage to do the research. Courage to just get started. For me, it was courage to attend an event similar to this one that you're part of today. Those conversations which I had in settings like these in a summit like today, that you're in part of today, opened the doors to so many opportunities for me. I wasn't even aware that I could find free accelerator programs who could support and guide you from ideation all the way to product, like Color and Tech. That was that one conversation I had with that one person during a session similar to this, changed the course of everything for me. That one conversation was worth its weight in gold, because that was the start for me pushing open the doors and learning what it took to build a startup. Color in Tech then introduced me to Microsoft for Startups, which has led to me being stood here speaking to you guys as a founder. You see, the big part of what allowed me to start was doing one small thing I knew I could control. I have the gift of a gab. I can talk for the whole of England. And I knew that I could talk to people. I called it making friends with like-minded people back then, and all I was doing was talking. But when you put a name to it now, it's called networking. That was the one thing that I knew I could control. So I talked to people and talked to more people, and the more people I spoke to, that introduced me to more people that I spoke to. If you don't know where to start when it comes to turning your idea into a reality, find programs like these, attend events like these, which are completely free to help you. What Color in Tech and Microsoft for Startups have done for me was give me the tools I needed to get started. They gave me the confidence to clearly articulate my idea, confidence to build a team, confidence to pitch to investors, confidence to build in tech, confidence to build as a Black woman in health tech. If you're not sure where to start, I urge you to find opportunities like this, filled with people willing to guide you and cheer you on to your next connection. Start small. Find the one thing that you can control, that you can keep doing and keep doing every day. Remember that you don't have to have everything figured out to start. And you being here right now in this moment today, this means that you have started, so keep going. Well done. My favorite season was the one when I started working on my idea and I just didn't know how to keep it going. I went through the whole motion of not having any ideas, and then I found a whole host of ideas from speaking to people. And then now when I'd started, the momentum was starting to lose pace and I just didn't know how to keep moving my startup forward. This for me was the hardest, most challenging, but yet also the most exciting period of my journey so far. You see, I'm a non-technical founder, building a health tech startup. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. What is she doing? I have that thought many, many times a day. I'm an ideas person by nature. I know how to design services from end to end as a service designer. However, as much as I can design services, I can't build them. That is the story of Cocoon. The service design has been thoroughly crafted to perfection, if I do say so myself. For me, that was as far as I could take my startup. And that brought along days and nights filled with anxiety, fear, and disappointment. I was so desperate to get started and to move my startup forward that I started learning how to code, which was the most frustrating thing for me because that was not my skill set. It took the joy out of the work that I loved. What saved me? A reminder email from Microsoft for Startups letting me know that I had $150,000 worth of Azure credits and access to a technical support team that I completely forgot about. That email brought to me a sigh of relief that I needed. See, for me, even though I didn't know how to push my product forward, I knew I still had to do the work every single day through the frustration to just figure it out. As long as I did something small to build towards my bigger goal, that mattered. With that email in my hand, I then unashamedly asked some serious and downright stupid questions to the tech team that I have access to through this program. And they have kindly offered their support at every stage of the journey, from helping me define my tech stack, using just the resources that I got from Microsoft for Startups. I've utilized and will continue to utilize everything that Azure has to offer me, from Azure Functions to Azure Cosmos DB to Azure App Services, to name a few. I have literally used every single thing that's been available that's been given to my disposal. You guys here are fortunate and blessed that you have access to the intelligent minds in this virtual room, willing to talk to you about tech. Make sure you use them. That idea you're stuck on, make use of this panel before you. That career in tech you're curious about, ask them about it. That career in tech that you really, really want to get to, but you think you're kind of stuck, ask them how they managed to get to the other side. Ask those hard questions. Send those introductory emails that are sat in your inbox. Message that person on LinkedIn who you think might be able to help you. Don't let you stand in the way of you getting the help that you need. Finally, if you've managed to go through all of this and you've managed to build something, but success didn't look like what you thought it was, I was there. I failed with my first startup. But that is okay. Failure is how we learn. Using the learnings from that experience has spurred me into what I'm doing now. That experience has allowed me to do things differently. That experience has allowed me to teach others. That experience has allowed me to stand here and talk to you guys. Failure is never wasted. Your experience can help someone else. Use that to spur you on, to dust yourself, to get going again. The old nursery rhyme rings true to this day. If at first you don't succeed, try again. For those of you who have tasted success and have built something that's incredible and great, you have an obligation to share, mentor, and support those still on the journey. Share your knowledge, mentor someone, provide access to resources, make those introductions that you know would be really vital and would make a difference in someone else. After all, someone probably did the same for you to get you here. Pay that forward. I'm still going, even at times when I tremble with fear, I still dare to continue. I hope you leave here today feeling encouraged to try one more time, to go again, feeling encouraged to pursue technology and its unlimited potential, not only for your good, but for the good of others. We're all here cheering you on every step of the way. Thank you. That's it.
Wow, what an inspirational opening keynote. Thank you very much, Prisca. That is an unbelievable story and absolutely loved it. Thank you. You said a few things. I'm not going to take up too much time because you need to sort of move on to the next stage, but I want to say a massive thank you. You touched on getting started just being one of the hardest parts. And we're going to touch on this later on in the career in one of the other sessions, but imposter syndrome. Now it kind of feels like that's where it was coming from a little bit. And, you know, a massive props for getting started and taking that first step, that first leap is the hardest. Now on the screen here, we've got the Founders Hub. Now, Prisca, you briefly went over that one. Thank you. It is an absolutely amazing initiative run by Microsoft here to help young founders like yourself get into the tech world. And you do not need to know how to code, as Prisca quite rightly said. Now, what we have actually got a careers panel coming up next. And Prisca, you have also agreed to be joining others on that one as well. So a massive thank you for joining. I'm going to bring up Carlotta and Kenji, who are going to be hosting this one. So we've got a few other people. So we've got, actually, I'll let you take it away. You go for it.
All right. Hi, everyone. Glad to see that there's a lot of students here joining us at the Student Summit. So let me just introduce everyone here quickly. I'm Kenji, a Microsoft Student Ambassador, and I'm here with Carlotta, who is an academic cloud advocate at Microsoft. And we are going to be your host for this session. And with us, we have our panelists. We have Hadeel, who is a developer audience lead at Microsoft, Mario, who is a cloud solutions architect at Microsoft and also a former student ambassador. And we also have Prisca from the previous session. Let's just start off with some icebreaker questions. I realize that a lot of students here may be a little bit unfamiliar with some of the names of the roles that were mentioned. So could you tell us more about what you do in your roles in a few sentences? Hadeel, would you like to go first?
Cool. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Kenji, thank you, Carlotta, for inviting me to the Student Summit. I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Hadeel Nagarwala, and I work as a developer audience PMM. My role, in short, is to get in touch with developers which are working on different technologies like Python, Node.js, Java, any other technologies, and they're trying to host it on Azure. So my job is to help them out, let them know about the technologies, what are the tools available, and try to be a part of events like this.
Mario, would you like to go next?
Yeah. Hi guys, I'm Mario. I joined Microsoft in 1st September as a customer engineer. But in the first week of my work job, I changed my role to Cloud Solution Architect Engineering about security fields. I joined as an Aspire, that is a program around the world dedicated to university students, to like Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador.
Prisca, would you like to go next? Even though you've already introduced yourself just now.
Prisca.
Okay, great. Maybe I will jump in here because probably also people will wondering what's an academic cloud advocate, right? So hi everyone, I'm Carlotta. I'm based in Italy. Just a few sentences about my role. So my main mission is working on scaling and engaging educational communities to create and grow with Microsoft Cloud, so with Azure. By contributing to technical learning content and supporting students and educators like you in their learning journey with Microsoft technologies. So Prisca, do you want to just say a few words about your role as co-founder?
Yes, sorry, I had a bit of technical issues there. Could you repeat the question? And then,
yeah, if you just can, like all of us are just explaining a little bit what they do in their daily job, just to give the audience an idea of, yeah, what's behind the name of our roles.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I am the co-founder and CEO of Cocoon. So my day-to-day is more strategic at the moment. So we're currently in the build phase of our product. So I'm mainly kind of looking at the strategy, looking at how we launch and how we get payers to kind of come on and use our platform. And alongside that is also dealing with our team, our build team, which is currently, we've got 2 build teams, one based in India. So I tend to do a lot of liaising and negotiating and then messaging the Microsoft people to be like, they've said this, what does it mean? So it's a lot of kind of doing a bit of everything as a founder at the moment.
Thank you, everyone. So just to get to know a little bit more, apart from your role and your work, just an icebreaker question. What do you love to do outside work? So what are your hobbies? I will start with you, Hatim.
Thank you. Apart from work, I actually don't code at my work, but apart from work, I love to code. I develop mobile applications for fun. So I was a game developer. So my background actually involves more of gaming and something which is related to either creating games or playing Xbox. So you will find me either playing Xbox or working on a mobile application which is trying to build games. Other than that, I love cycling, and I usually, so it's a bit odd that I live in Dubai, and the heat, it's almost 9 months of summer there, but I still love in this hot weather to go and cycle out a bit, and yeah, I love to travel. That's one of the part of my role, which I love. So outside work, if I get a chance, I could travel to different locations, get to talk to people, and yeah, that's it.
Sounds great. Thank you for sharing. So Prisca, do you want to go next? Sorry, we cannot hear you.
I think we lost Prisca again.
Yeah, in the meantime, maybe Mario, do you want to jump in and talk a little bit about your hobbies? We'll go back to Prisca later.
The thing that I love so much about Microsoft Learning Student Ambassador, Microsoft community, is that you can find people around the world that are living your life in another part of the world. I love game development too, and not cycling, but running. So I was feeling with you that was talking about it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mario, can you put your camera on? Is everything fine?
I'm having a trouble connection, so this is the reason why I turn off it.
I think Prisca is still not here. I think we should just proceed. So, Carlotta, what are we going to be doing in this panel for the next 20 or so minutes?
Yeah, sure. So I guess that most of you in the audience aspire to have a career in tech, right? in Microsoft, like her team or Mario, or in another big company. And some of you might dream about founding a startup like Prisca told us a little bit in the keynote. Others are just trying to find a way through and wish to learn and explore more about having a career in tech. Well, this panel is definitely for you. We will ask to our guests to share the experience, to give you the opportunity to learn from them and be inspired. And we will ask the same question to each guest to hear answers from different perspectives. Kenji, I will let you start with the first question.
All right. So the first question is, what inspired you or motivated you to get into the tech industry? Is it still the same thing that keeps you going today, or has it changed over the years? Mario, would you like to go first for this one?
Yeah. So what can I say about it? Something about my story, right? So
Yeah.
I attended the scientific high school at the end of my studies, and I was a bit little scared about my future because I haven't clear ideas about what I would like to do. Should I go to work? If so, what work can I do? Should I study? What faculty? I thank my professor that advised me to start my studies at university. Among the various faculties, I decided to start with management engineering because I think that I am a methodical, rational guy student. So, but in the first years, I fell in love with computer science exams and decided to get deep in them. This is how my love for information technology was born. And so I can say with certainty that there isn't a day when I don't write a line of code. I believe that the main reason that kept me going in continuous studying is challenge. Writing code that solve a problem is a challenge. Creating an infrastructure is a challenge. Creating an application, we were talking about a game that can improve human life is a challenge. So I was thinking about everything about inclusion and diversity. I don't know about Xbox Adaptive Controller. I think about it. Everything is a challenge. And me and you, we are playing an important role in this challenge. So this is the main reason that keep me going ahead.
Yeah. Hadeel, would you like to go next?
Yes. So actually, before starting my story, I feel a bit old sharing that, but in the panel around. So I started my journey, I think so, in 1993 when I had my first computer. And at that time, it was like very exciting for me to, to have a floppy disk available and, do something on a command prompt. And it was very exciting. It was a new experience I had with something in technology, and that actually created my love towards technology. And whenever you ask a child that, okay, what do you want to become, when you grow up, I used to start with, okay, I want to become a computer engineer, right? And that actually took me through the whole journey of mine. And in between, I got few really good opportunities which helped me grow my career today. So to start with, I was a Microsoft Student Partner, which was a program before the Student Ambassador. Then I became a Microsoft Most Valued Professional. I have been so passionate about technology. I used to talk in different sessions. I used to be in touch with a lot of technical crowd around, and that actually helped me shape my career a lot. Which is, at today, I feel that I'm in a perfect position where today I wake up and I think about, okay, which developers are we going to talk about, right? Which technologies are we going to discuss today? So it's kind of exciting still today that how the journey has shaped for me, and how it has gone from my childhood, from playing like 2D games and working on command prompt, to working with developers and different technologies out here today.
Oh, what happened to Prisca? Is Prisca back?
I think so. Prisca, can you hear us? Okay. Thanks, team. Thanks, Mario, for sharing your stories. They were very aspirational for all of us, I think. So thank you so much. So while fortunately we had time to also know a little bit more about Prisca's stories. So she talked a little bit about how she started her journey in tech. So probably we can jump into the next question. And this is an easier one because I know that the first one was quite heavy. So I will go with an easier one. What are your favorite technologies? Hatim, do you want to go first? You already mentioned game development. So is there anything else you want to add here?
So I have been a .NET developer most of my life, working in .NET technologies and technologies related to that. So I have been working with .NET and game development using Unity and XNA back then. So you can consider, like, I'm in the framework of .NET, whichever it is around, and you can use .NET to build something. That's kind of my favorite tech as of now.
Thank you, Mario. What about you? What is your favorite technology, or what are your favorite technologies?
If you asked me this question 2 years ago, I answered I love it so much. Cognitive services. Sorry, I had the right words in Italian, but not in English.
Don't worry.
Cognitive services. But now I'm going deeply in convolutional neural network. So I'm developing a master thesis about it. And it's a bit difficult, but it's a challenge, as I was talking before.
Prisca, can you hear us? Do you want to tell us about your favorite technologies as well?
I don't think Prisca is here. Should we just move on to the next question?
Yeah, no problem. Let's go ahead. The show must go on, right?
Yeah.
So I know we have some questions from Menti and from the chat. So maybe Kenji, I know you have some questions as well. So maybe go ahead with your next question, and then we will pick some questions from the chat, because I want to make sure that we answer some questions from the audience as well.
All right. So we have a question from Menti here. So the question is, how do you become a cloud advocate? Can I try to be an advocate being located in, let's say, Poland? Am I registered in other country as an advocate? Yeah, that's the question.
Okay, so I love this question. Maybe I can start saying something since I'm a cloud advocate. But then, if Hatim or Mario wants to add more, please go ahead. So, as a tip, I would definitely say that you can start. One thing you can definitely start doing is applying for a Microsoft Student Ambassador program. So as a student, the best way you can start with advocating for technologies you are passionate about is really joining this community of students like you and host events in your university campus, for example. Know also some Microsoft FTEs, and in these ways you can also challenge yourself and really understand if this is what you motivate the most and what you want to do in your life. So this is my personal tip. I would like to listen from also our guest, maybe Kenji as well, since he was a student ambassador, so he can share maybe something of his experience as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess I really recommend joining the Student Ambassadors program. It has really changed my university life because you just learn so much more interesting things in the ambassador program itself. Like you also get the opportunities to interact with a lot of amazing people. There's mentorships, there's like early access to different products, and yeah, tons of amazing activities. There's social impact projects as well. Yeah, I would definitely that's the first step that I think will lead you to a cloud advocate role. And yeah, anyone else has any opinions?
So I think I would like to add one more point here is one of the responsibilities, or one of the qualities of a cloud advocate is how you are actually leading your own followers. So first of all, you have to build your own followers and a brand of yourself. A cloud advocate, and you had a very good question that if you're based out in Poland, whether you would be registered elsewhere in the country. So cloud advocates are worldwide. So I have been doing a lot of events and sessions with cloud advocates in South Africa, based in UAE. I'm doing with I'm talking with cloud advocates in Australia, in US. So it's like it's about your brand. It's about the technology you are advocating it for. So be a trusted advisor, an advocate for the community or for your technical followers. And that's one of the qualities which once you develop it, it's you're ready for the role.
Yeah, thank you for all your answers. Very interesting. Carlota, would you like to ask the next question?
Yeah, sure. So this is not easy as well, but I would really love to let you tell a little bit as a story about a challenge you faced throughout your path, because of course no one of these journey we are telling here was totally easy, right? Or without obstacles. For example, did you face the imposter syndrome at some point of your life, or have you ever felt overwhelmed by the fast development of technologies? Or can you tell us other challenges and obstacles you faced during the way? Prisca, we can see you. I don't know if you can hear us and you want to start with answering this question.
I think we can't hear Prisca.
Yeah, fortunately we see Prisca, but we can hear her. Sorry, a lot of tech issues today. Hadeel, do you want to go on next maybe?
Yes, sure, Carlota. So I feel this is a very good point. Imposter syndrome, you face it every now and then. And when you are in such a competitive world, there can't be a possibility that you don't have an imposter syndrome in between your journey. In that case, what I used to do, and I still do that sometimes, is there are a few points to remember if you're feeling that, or if you have a lot of anxiety and if you are stuck with challenges like these. In Microsoft, one of the things is as soon as you start working, you actually go ahead and find a mentor. A mentor helps you to stay on track or avoid having misconceptions about what you're thinking about. This is because all is going on in your brain here, right? So it's not actually happening. So a mentor would actually help you a lot in overcoming this syndrome. Second is making sure that you focus on the facts and numbers. So don't look around what is going on around you. So I'll give you a very good example. In my role as a developer audience, our main role is to reach as many developers as we can, right? I come from a region called as India. Everybody knows about it, right? So India is one of the place where you have millions of developers. Now, if I come here in this region, if I see that, okay, if I have a session which have like 500 people joining in, but if I do that in Dubai, I have only 50 people there, right? So I have to learn about the facts. I have to know about where I'm doing it, what I'm doing it, numbers around it. So there are challenges like this which you have to make sure that you focus on what you're doing, you focus on your facts, and make sure that you learn from your team members and people around you. And that's, I think so, keeping these points in mind, you can actually overcome and avoid getting into an imposter syndrome.
Great tips from Hatim. Thank you so much for sharing. So Mario, do you want to go next? Can you share with us a challenge you faced throughout your way?
Yeah, it's a funny question because I feel imposter syndrome every day. So, and I believe that everyone has experienced imposter syndrome. And if they tell you no, surely they are lying. That it is something that is within us and with which we must live with. But we can also defeat it. As you told Carlotta, I was a Microsoft Student Ambassador, and when they called me and they said me that they decided to hire me, I was very happy. But immediately, however, the imposter syndrome arrived. So I was asking me, I really useful in this role, and so if they have made a mistake and saw potential in me that I don't have, it was like a real roller coaster of emotion. Like I don't know if you know Danny Kruger effect, but what has helped me a lot is stop for a moment, reason, look back, and see all the small step that have driven me where I am now. In Italy, there is a motto, so Rome was not built in a day. Everything has its time, step by step. So don't fear to failure. As Prisca said before, failure is how we learn.
Thank you so much. Very inspirational.
If Prisca is not back, I'll ask the next question then. So if you were to start your journey all over again, would you have done anything differently? Especially since there's a lot of opportunities for students nowadays, like hackathons, student programs, or like even the open source space. What do you think a student who has just started their career recently should check out? And there's actually 2 questions in the chat which are also like talking about the same question. What resources would you recommend for someone who is self-taught? Mario, would you like to go first for this one? Mario, are you here?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I studied. I was thinking that I studied a lot in Microsoft Learn and in the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador community that helped me a lot to meet other people and to see things, for example, from different point of view. So I'm thinking about what are the other resources that I used.
Hatim, maybe you want to add something to that as well?
So actually, I'll answer it one by one, maybe. So I wouldn't want my journey to be started again, all over with something different. Whatever happened, I think so it's for good, and however it turned out today, I'm very happy with that. So for students, actually, what they can do with the current opportunities is, yes, I know there are so many hackathons, there's so many learning resources, videos, and stuff like that, right? I would suggest that make sure that you don't get lost into the pool of resources out there. You concentrate on what you love. Keep doing that. So never stop innovating. That is one of the points which Prisca also mentioned in our session. That never stop innovating, and make sure that you have a goal, or you are doing something which you love. So in that case, make sure that you concentrate on that. Be clear of what you're doing. I take care of one approach is if I'm learning something new, or if I'm doing something, I would actually evangelize about it. Talk to someone about it, or talk to it about with your colleagues and stuff, which will help you to understand that more, and it will help you to achieve your goal at once in that case. So I think don't go for everything. Concentrate and focus on specific things, and you have pool of resources and videos and tutorials and stuff available everywhere.
Thank you. Very, very good tips. Again, Hati, Mario, thank you for joining us today. So I wish just to remind everyone that the link which you can see now on the screen is a link where you can find some useful resources and information about how to apply for becoming a student ambassador and joining the community, because I know we had some questions from Menti about these. So you will find some information, and you can also apply for become a student ambassador from starting from there.
A massive, massive thank you for sharing such invaluable knowledge on such a great panel. A massive thank you to yourself, Carlotta, Kenji, for hosting it, and of course, the panelists, Hadeel, Mario, and Prisca, if you are still here. A huge thank you for your keynote and your contributions. Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you touched on imposter syndrome, because it is one of the biggest talking points that nobody talks about. And it's great to sort of hammer that home, that we all feel it. I mean, we're hosting this today, and I mean, even I feel it to some extent. So if you would like to get into a career in tech, then of course, please do follow this through. Go on to aka.ms/start in tech as intern. So, I mean, it's a bit of a funky link, but we'll drop that one in and make sure you can see that one on the scroller at the bottom or in the chat, of course. Please do keep everything going through Menti as well. Korey, how are we doing on the Menti board? How are we doing over there?
Contributing. We have now showing what the key takeaways everyone got from there. So I'll be putting them in the chat so everyone can see what people learned from this great panel.
Thank you very much. And of course, there is one more question that we would love you to pop on there. So what was your top career panel takeaway? And Korey will circle back around to you in a bit with the answers that are posted on there. So what next? Well, it is time. It is time to launch the Imagine Cup 2023. Carlotta is also sporting the same t-shirt as myself, the Imagine Cup, the 20th anniversary from 2022. We have got an entire panel dedicated to this later. But we just want to run you through exactly what it is. So the Imagine Cup is your chance to get hands-on with Microsoft technology. It is your chance to help solve real-world problems and take your solutions forward from across the world. We have seen fantastic teams from all over the place, whether they're working remotely throughout the pandemic or whether they have been together in the same room. This is your chance to get hands-on. So without further ado, we will reel up a video which will launch 2023's Imagine Cup.
Hello, my name is Pablo Veramendi, and I'm the Global Director for the Microsoft Imagine Cup. And I'm thrilled to be at the Student Summit to announce the launch of the 2023 Imagine Cup. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Imagine Cup, it is a global student developer competition where students just like you bring their world-changing ideas to life using the power of Microsoft Azure. Over the years, we've seen incredible solutions, from artificial intelligence to bionic arms to innovative learning platforms and innovative remote health platforms. It's incredible to see what students bring every year to the competition. And at Microsoft, we truly believe that every student can be an entrepreneur, and we provide you the tools, the skills, and the platform to bring your dreams to life. All these students started out in the same place you are today, finding out about the Imagine Cup for the first time. If you were to ask them if you should participate, the answer would be a resounding yes. You know the challenges that your community faces, and you can bring solutions to that using technology. This year's competition has 4 categories: Earth, Education, Health, and Lifestyle. And it's up to you which category you want to compete in. Students 16 years or older from across the globe form teams of up to 4, and they come up with a 3-minute pitch, and they come up with a proof of concept for their Microsoft Azure solution to show to the judges to be evaluated at their national finals, regional finals, or online semifinals. And the top 3 teams move on to the World Championship. At the World Championship, those 3 teams are vying for the Imagine Cup itself, as well as $100,000 in cash and mentorship session with our chairman and CEO, Satya Nadella. I've been in that room where Satya is speaking with those students, and it's incredible to hear the advice that he has for them. It's also incredible all the supports that you get along your journey. We have mentorship, we have Azure credits for those that move on to the competition, and we're partnering with our friends at Microsoft Startups in the Founders Hub, so you can continue your journey as an entrepreneur with them in the Founders Hub. So we're really thrilled to bring this competition to you this year. You can register today at imaginecup.com. You can follow us on social at MSFT Imagine on Twitter and at Microsoft Imagine Cup on Instagram, and see all the amazing things that students are doing using Microsoft technologies. But the supports don't end there. When you register for the competition, you get access to a whole slew of technology content. You get a training curriculum on GitHub where you can learn how to take your project from 0 to 1, how to come up with an idea, how to form that team, and how to bring that project to life and what technologies you should use. We also have a Discord community where you can join and ask questions to the team at Microsoft. There's mentors on that Discord. You can also find your teammates if you don't have any teammates at the moment. So it's really awesome, all the tools and all the opportunities that are afforded by participating in the Imagine Cup. And again, that chance to compete on a global stage, to be part of this incredible competition is something that you shouldn't pass up. So register today at imaginecup.com, and I can't wait to see what you bring to the Imagine Cup this year.
Lovely. Well, there we have it. Imagine Cup 2023 is launching. And spoiler alert, we've got a couple of those people which you've just saw in that video from last year's winners and runners-up throughout the world. So we're super excited to have them on board, and we'll be asking them a whole bunch of questions about their experience and how you can get into it yourself. But I would like to bring up now Korey and Hadeel, because how do you think of ideas? You know, that's the main question that everybody asks. How do you get into these hackathons? How do you think of what you're going to do? The big world problem. Well, actually, you need to do some design thinking. Now, to do design thinking, we're going to hand it over to them, and they're going to run through an imagination collaboration session. So, Korey, if you are there, if you pop your camera on, I will let you both take this one away. And yeah, I will see you after your session.
Great. Thanks, Liam. Hey, everyone. Very excited to kick off this part of the event, which is very exciting, which is the imagination collaboration. So as you've seen, we just had the launch of the amazing Imagine Cup. And, you know, right now in this activity, we're all about kind of helping you generate ideas and think of how you can kind of use technology to create an impact. So that being said, we are going to kind of use technology as it plays a big role in our lives, and kind of show you how you can kind of create real impact, whether it's in your job, whether it's maybe an Imagine Cup, and kind of help you kind of take the first steps or the right steps to, you know, kind of moving or taking this forward. And to do that, the goal of our activity today is we are going to create an idea pitch that solves a real problem for a real user. So basically, we're going to tell you why it's very important. We're going to get to know a user as an example, and then we're going to tell you why it's very important to kind of get to know the user, what they do and such. So you might be saying, Hadeel, I already have a great tech idea, but I want you to hold on just a second. So let's say you would say that I have an idea where I'm going to take, you know, I'm going to have $1 billion in my hand and then like change the world and everything's going to be great. However, I want you to hold on just a second, because today we're going to be going through the design thinking process in order to make sure that we're addressing a real need and not using tech for tech's sake. So let's say you're entering ideas for the Imagine Cup, or maybe, for example, you're trying to create something. You really need to think first who the user is and why you're trying to help them. And kind of, you know, doing that, it kind of helps you get an idea of the technology that you will kind of help them to solve the problem, or that they will be able to use. So this is where it comes to play. Empathy is really key to solving real world problems. So it's very important to create real world solutions. You kind of need to first understand the user's needs and goals. So you need to get into the minds and lives of the users that you have in front of you, kind of understand what they're doing and, you know, what are their tasks. Next, you will appreciate their difficulties. Obviously, after understanding the user's needs, they might have some difficulties along the way. So you need to kind of understand and appreciate their difficulties. And the last thing you need to do is you need to kind of start coming up and generating solutions, or possibly like potential solutions or ideas that they can use technology to kind of solve their problem. So after going through these kind of steps, this is kind of like a base of how you can, you know, kind of create a real world impact by thinking about these things. So that being said, we have the design thinking process. And the design thinking process usually goes by, first, we need to empathize. And by empathizing, we are getting into the minds and the lives of the users that we have. So after you understand the users and who they are, you start by defining the problem. You need to have a clear problem statement, or like, you know, you need to understand what the objective is, and then kind of generate ideas and come up with potential ideas and solutions, you know, on how you can use technology to help the users. There are like 2 other steps, but we're not going to go through them like in details here, because obviously we have a full-on schedule today and this activity is for like 20 minutes. But usually you would also kind of prototype your solution, make it, and then kind of iterate it and go through the whole process again. And this is kind of how like the design thinking process works. So, you know, when you want to create an idea, you want to pitch an idea for Imagine Cup, you want to create a real impact in the world out there, this is kind of the design thinking process that, you know, as a someone who is thinking about, you know, making impact, you should always keep in mind. So today's user, and in today's activity, the user that we're going to be kind of introducing to you is pet lovers. I'm pretty sure many of us are pet lovers here. And so we're kind of going to take you through the activity where we're going to be answering 3 questions to see how you can use technology to help pet users. So that being said, we're going to be using obviously Menti for that one. And here we go. So you probably logged into Menti already. And right now I'm going to be sharing the screen.
I can see many of you smashing that heart button, so I appreciate all of the excitement, ready to go. Share these ideas.
Cool stuff. And make sure to join this activity. It's a very fun one. So can everyone see the screen, the whiteboard here? If you can see my screen, then please make sure to scan the code and get into Menti. Okay, so let's begin. So here, the first question that we have, and it's going to pop onto Menti. What tasks are involved with pets? Let me just zoom in a bit. Oops. Let me move. So sorry about that one. So the question we have is, what tasks are involved with pets? And you can, when you scan into Menti, you can obviously see that question and kind of answer into it. And then Korey is going to be helping me out here to kind of share the answers. So if Korey is around, Korey, I want you to tell me, do you have a pet? Do you own a pet? Do you, tell me about pets. Do you have any pets?
I have 2 small children. Does that count?
That's a good one.
One reason of not having a pet is that. But one day we'll probably have a nice family pet. But yeah, it's growing up, I had a dog, which was, you know, again, the family animal. And it's nice to have something around that loves you unconditionally, if you will. So yeah, big fan of pets. And I'm a big fan of all these ideas as well coming in. I'm getting them now. But I love ideas. What do you, Hadeel, have the best ideas for you? Like, where's your happy place of getting ideas?
My place of, there's a lot. But first, let me tell them about pets. My experience with pets first. I just need to share this one. Fun fact, I am scared of pets, actually. I've had a, like,
but like
I have
all of the pets, like goldfish. like a fish would scare you, or what kind of pet?
No,
Mostly from pets.
it's cats. I don't know why. Ever since I was a child, I've been scared of cat phobia. I have stories with cats for as long as I can remember that I can share with you, but we can go on forever. But usually, like, I love cats. They're very fluffy. They're very cute. They don't do anything. They don't bite. Like, I know, but it's just like from a distance. But when they come close, it's just like, no. So, so yeah, but I actually did have, in the pandemic, in COVID, my family decided to get a cage with 20 birds, 20 mini birds. And, you know, birds are they don't do anything, obviously, but they're very annoying in the morning when you don't like usually feed them. Like they would wake up in the morning, and when the sun starts rising, they would come like and start screaming, and they want food. So one of the tasks, as for me, Hadeel, as a pet user, that I would usually do is to kind of always make sure, like at night before I go to sleep, that they have enough food and water. So obviously they wouldn't make like some noise in the morning. Other than that, yeah. So I'm starting to see that we have some answers here from obviously our participants. Keep them coming. So tasks and goals. What tasks are involved with pets? Obviously feeding them. Of course, food is very important for pets to survive. Taking them to the vet. This is very important for regular checkups. You know, obviously making sure, you know, that our pets are okay. They're taking the meds that they need if, you know, they're not feeling okay. Taking the pets on a walk. Obviously taking, you know, your dogs on a walk, your pets, wherever they are. Absolutely amazing. Do you have any more answers coming in? Groom pets periodically.
Periodically,
yes.
yeah. Make sure
Love
you do
that.
that, unless you really like pet hair everywhere.
That's a good one. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Love these answers.
Yeah, a lot of cleaning, a lot of feeding. So really, everyone is trying to take care of the pets, which is nice. Cleaning after them, yeah, cleaning, skincare, pet skincare. I didn't know that.
Wow.
Okay, I'm gonna
So
put
doing
that
your
one up
skincare routine with your cats, for example, like having a mask here and having a mask on them, maybe.
there. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, spa day.
Yourself, with your pet.
That's a good one. Cool
Cool.
stuff. Shall we move on to the next question then?
Shall we?
Yeah, let's go. All right, everyone, keep them coming. Next question. Are you ready? Pet lovers, pet owners, or even if you don't have a pet, you can obviously join. Like, tell us your ideas, brainstorm. So, difficulties. So, what difficulties might you encounter with pets? So, let's say you have a pet or you don't. Imagine that you have a pet that you own. What difficulties might you encounter with pets? What hardships could you face with them? So, Korey, tell me your thoughts on this one.
Well, I mean, for me, it's definitely time, which I see a lot of those answers coming in. Missing feeding time, lack of time. So time is a big thing. I mean, pets are, like I said, almost as needy as children. So you need to make sure you have some time to, you know, do the pet skincare routine, because if not,
have the right yeah, for sure. Great. Yeah, there are many difficulties that you might encounter with pets, but I'm not going to share them until, you know, we have our audience to share their opinions as well. So we are starting to see some answers. Missing feeding time. Obviously, if you miss feeding time for your pet, that's going to be a nightmare. So don't miss feeding time. Your pet, you know, thinks of you as their parents, so you should always make sure they have the right time for feeding pets. And actually, to do that, there are like pet trackers and pet like tracking reminders that you can actually, you know, use to kind of, you know, remind you, like maybe every day at like 3 p.m., you know, I should feed my pet lunch, let's say, because you have a meeting or something. So just, you know, to kind of get ready beforehand. Let's zoom out a bit to see those answers. Convincing them to stay in the bath. that is a good.
See, again, the connections between children and pets here is just, I don't know. I mean, come on. This is the same difficulties I have.
It's a very thin line actually between both.
Yes. So have not seen a difference yet.
Yeah, that's very true. Loving the creativity, going on travel. Wow. I can't even imagine traveling with a pet, honestly. I never tried it, so I can only imagine the chaos that could happen. But maybe like kind of training them beforehand, and, you know, like making sure you have the right snacks, the right tools for them to, you know, stay as calm as possible. Yeah. Sickness, obviously, us, if you are a pet owner yourself, seeing your pets become sick or not feel well is very frustrating. So I hope all your pets are well and healthy and stay healthy for as long as they live, and spread joy into our lives.
I really
Cats
like this one I
waking
put. Cat waking me up at 4 a.m. for pets seems like a very personal difficulty, but I'm sure many people at different
Can
times
relate.
have that problem.
Yeah, it's like you give them all the space, but then they will still come to you.
Yeah, that's cats for you.
Amazing. So I think, Korey, for that one, we're good. We have amazing ideas, obviously. So let's move on to the last question. Is everyone ready? So now that we've talked about the difficulties, let's move on to the last question. Solutions. So how could technology help with these difficulties that you've mentioned? So let's say your pet is sick. What could you do to solve that? Let's say your pet, wants to go on a walk, but you don't have time. What can you do to do that? What can you do? How can you use technology to solve that? There are many ideas that come to mind. You can be creative here. So let's see that one.
Someone's a big fan of me or a big fan of the things I like. I like the answer of just AI. AI will just solve it. This is great.
Straightforward, straight to the point
Straightforward
answer. Very, very true. Yeah, as an AI, person who is in the field as well, I think we both can relate, Korey.
Yeah. This is the best contrast here. We got one coming up here. The high tech and the low tech option. Look at this one, Hadeel.
Oh, alarm clock.
Just get an alarm clock. That's it. Sometimes it's the most simple.
Very simple answers are always, always the best. Love it. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Think, how could you use technology to help with these difficulties as a pet owner?
Here we go. Have somebody else do it.
Oh my God. I wish life was this easy.
I guess you could, tech-wise, maybe do some matchmaking or things like that. Yeah,
Possibly,
we see a lot of those coming on. Social apps to find a walk with your pets. More AI. I'm really liking all of that. Some robot suggestions, some pet robot taken care of. Yeah. This was a deep one. I like this one. I'm going to put this one up.
Love the answers. Keep them coming.
It's quite a long one. Here it comes.
Let's see. Let's zoom out a bit. I hope this is clear for everyone. Yeah. So VR goggles and treadmill for the pet to learn them to travel. Wow, I love this one.
Look at that.
Whoever wrote that one is very creative.
I've actually taken a flight. I'm not afraid to admit it. I've taken a flight on VR.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You can do a lot of different YouTube VRs and things like that and apps. And it's really nice to, you get the sensation and the sound of traveling and all of that without leaving your house.
Love it. What is that one that you just put in? So a rapid test that checks the pet's health. Love this one. Very important, I think, and very useful way of using tech, to kind of track and monitor your pet's health. Also, pet, obviously, I mentioned this before, kind of give you, a solution, is pet reminder tracks. And you have also monitoring like videos and such. So when you leave the house, you can make sure, your pet is safe, or they're not ruining the house for you. What else do we have here? Nanotech, eliminate them diseases. That's a very good one. People are starting to get creative here. I'm loving it. Loving it.
This will be the last one I think I'll put in here because I also think it's the most heartwarming. Here we go.
Let's go. Oh, God bless Cuddles, of course.
Cuddles solves everything, actually. I don't know how much technology you can do with Cuddles, but basically that's all you need. I like that idea.
That's very true. Whether it's a pet, your child, or whoever it is, Cuddles will always solve your problems.
Yes, true.
Perfect. So that being said, thank you everyone for sharing these amazing answers. And obviously, as Korey said, we wish we can share all the answers on screen here. But obviously, due to the time, we can see obviously how creative everyone's getting. So this kind of teaches you obviously to kind of think of the user that you need and the process, the design thinking process. And this is how usually you can kind of take these steps to pitch the idea for Imagine Cup, for creating a real world impact out there, and kind of, just being out there to, solve a problem. So let's go back to the slides here. And now that we've kind of, talked about all of this, let's kind of tell you a bit that we have a pitch. So it's very important for you guys to kind of share your ideas and, summarize your favorite problem and solution into 2 sentences. So taking that activity, think of, the problem and the solution, maybe just write a sentence or 2 and submit the pitch on Menti. And by the end of this kind of summit, we might be able to share your answer. We're going to be sharing 3 or 4 answers maximum. So, kind of get creative with it, and we're going to be sharing it, and your name might be on the screen, to share in our wrap-up video. So please make sure to kind of, share those ideas. We've already seen amazing creative ideas, and we look forward, Korey, to kind of seeing how creative these pitches get. Yeah?
Yes, I'm sure they're already coming in. So I really like that. I think we have some examples as well on the next slide.
Yeah, exactly. Let me give a few examples. So, Korey, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, so everyone loves pets. Maybe not Hadeel, but everyone else. So
One day,
why on
I
earth
promise,
would you pay
especially cats,
someone
I promise.
to pet sit when you can have them pay you, right? If you don't have a pet, but you want one or want those cuddles, as we were talking about. So next time you're going on a holiday, match with local pet lovers to ensure that your pet is pampered while you're away. So so you're getting money and your pet is being taken care of, and I think everyone's winning in there. So that's a great idea. So similar ideas, right? 2 lines, straight to the point, simple, and shows it what the problem is and how you're solving it.
Exactly, and that's what we are looking for you. So do that, submit your ideas to Menti, and that being said, I think we are done with this kind of part of the session. Now we have a quick break, right, Liam? A quick break, everyone. I'll let you take that one.
All right, a massive thank you, both Korey and Hadeel. It was brilliant. You see, you mentioned about problem solving and being hackathons. This can just apply to many, many problems in life. It's all about iteration. You iterate over things, you define it, you get better, and you start again. So absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. We are going to take a 5-minute break now, a short 5-minute break. So go to the loo, grab a cup of tea, get a snack, do whatever you like, whatever you can in 5 minutes. And then when we come back, we're going to have a couple more sessions on what is cloud. We've got 2 workshops by some brilliant student ambassadors and a cloud advocate here at Microsoft. And then we're going to follow up with an Imagine Cup panel. So stay tuned, grab your snack, and we'll see you in 5 minutes. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. That was the quickest 5 minutes break I think anybody's ever seen. What have we got up next for you? Well, we are going to be talking about what is the cloud. So, Carlotta, if you want to jump on screen as well, because we're going to play a short little video. And what it's going to do is going to give an outline, demystify some of the big terms you hear, some of the challenges that we face, and just talk to you a little bit about what really happens with the different cloud models. And we've got some lovely demo in the portal for you as well. So without further ado, let's play the introduction video. And this is just going to wrap up what people think the cloud is.
So what is the cloud? Probably you've wondered where your favorite series on Netflix are being stored, or when you upload your documents to your favorite cloud storage, where they are being stored on the cloud. So what is the cloud? The cloud is a network of servers which are connected over the internet. Over the years, the IT world has experienced diverse changes. Each day, IT professionals begin to identify the inefficiency of on-premise environment. With this, the cloud has come into place to solve the problems.
In the modern times, as everything is moving to online, people have a lot of work, files and documents, etc., or particularly we can call it data. To save all these data, we need a place or space to store it. The space or place what is cloud technology is providing to us. Best thing about cloud technology is that it can be accessed from anywhere.
Well, most times I'm sure when you see pictures and important things online, you keep wondering where they go and where they've been stored. I will need to tell you that the answer to this is the cloud, because the cloud servers, which are located in data centers all over the world, they help you keep them and give you access to them remotely whenever you need them.
Basically, the cloud is a term used for global network of servers. These servers are designed either to store and manage data, run applications, or deliver content or services such as streaming videos, web mails, office productivity softwares, and social media. Instead of accessing files and data from local or personal computer, you are accessing them online.
So cloud refers to servers that have access over the internet, and application database can run on those servers, and those servers are located into data centers. So by using cloud computing, user and company do not have to manage their physical servers or machines, or maybe running their own application into physical servers. Cloud help user to have access or application in almost any devices, because computing and storage are located into cloud servers.
The cloud also exceeds the capability of on-premise environment by the incorporations of AI, machine learning, and edge cutting technologies. With the cloud, business owners can scale based on their business needs. And due to global availability of the cloud, each business owners and organization can bring their product directly to their users globally.
Where Microsoft Cloud is a technology platform made up of products and solutions that empower organizations to thrive in changing world. We should all learn cloud as it offers faster services, more security and data storage capabilities. Additionally, it enables users to access, share, and modify any document from anywhere at any time. Thank you.
Brilliant. So I just want to say, first of all, absolutely every single one of those people is correct. You know, it is a platform. It's a service. It's somewhere where it's not on premise for yourself. Okay, so it's somewhere else. That's what the cloud is. If you think about it, named quite aptly, really. If you think about it, cloud in the sky. No, you're nowhere near it. It's up over there somewhere. So let's jump into these slides. What have we got? So a short agenda. I'm going to take us through what the cloud is, the shared responsibility model, Some may or may not have heard of that one, and the different cloud models that you've got. And then Carlotta, you're going to take us through the Azure portal and some Azure AI. So what is cloud? In a nutshell, it is the delivery of computing services over the internet. Whether that is virtual machines, whether that is databases, SQL, NoSQL, document databases, or whether that's networking, it can be a whole host of different services that you don't personally have to manage. Somebody else is taking care of all the hard work and the heavy lifting for you. So what's the shared responsibility model? So the shared responsibility model is a way of alleviating you from different pain points as a customer throughout your lifecycle with the cloud journey. So as you can see on here, we have got SaaS, we have got PaaS, IaaS, and on-prem. SaaS stands for software as a service. PaaS stands for platform as a service. And IaaS stands for infrastructure as a service. Now, if we look at the key on the map, or on the diagram, sorry, the full blue dots or squares are customer responsibility. So the customer is taking care of everything from the physical data center all the way up to the information that's stored on those servers. Whereas if you look at SaaS, the complete opposite of on-premise, you've kind of got a couple of light blue squares and a couple of dark blue. And in fact, it shifted more in the favor of the consumer at this point because there's less responsibility, okay? So let's take Office 365. That is a SaaS model service that's offered where you pay a subscription and it gets delivered to you. All you have to do is log in. Now, that is SaaS. The information and data that you put on those documents is your responsibility. The devices that you log into, whether it is your work mobile, your personal mobile, or personal work laptops, that is all your responsibility of where you log into. The accounts and identities, again, that is up to you to manage who has access to the accounts on Office 365. And of course, the identity and directory infrastructure. Now, this is a kind of a half square because this is a shared responsibility at this point. You, as a customer, have to work out who has access to the infrastructure at an admin level. And of course, on the flip side, the cloud service provider also must know who has access to those resources. And then everything below that is then shifted over to the cloud service provider. So think of Azure in this instance. If there's applications, the network controls, operating systems, physical host, the data center itself, who is managing the security in that data center, that's all on the cloud service provider. You as a person or as a customer do not need to worry about that. So you can see how it's completely shifted away from you and has put the burden onto the cloud provider. Now that is the whole purpose of a shared responsibility model. So what are different cloud models that you can use as a consumer? Well, you have private, you have got public, you have got hybrid, and you've got multi-cloud. Now, these seem pretty basic terms, but the deeper you go into these, the more complex it gets. But we're going to keep it pretty high level. So a private cloud would look a little something like this diagram, where the organization manages the security and everything under one roof. It's private, okay? Think of it as on-premise, but not necessarily on-premise. It's kind of an odd one. So it can be a corporate data center. It is used by a single entity, so nobody can share it. So you have got your private cloud and you own everything to do with that. Joe, Bob, Jill down the road, they can't access your private cloud. It is completely cut off from the outside world. Now, if we think who might use this, governments might use this for governing the information that's used. You have greater control for the users. Like I said, nobody outside of your organization will be able to get into your private cloud unless they have certain access, VPN, access tokens like that. And like I said, it's on-site or off-site. So on-premise is purely everything is done in one back room under the stairs in your house. That's completely on-premise. Your website is hosted there. Or in a private cloud, you could have a virtual network. You could have everything hosted in that virtual network, but it could be in the storeroom over the road. But it's still a private cloud because you have locked it off to the outside world. And of course, this is the most costly because you are still kind of dealing with an on-premise sort of infrastructure where you're dealing with the services, you're dealing with the network cost. you're dealing with the servers and the security and so forth. So that's a private cloud. Now, public cloud is the complete opposite, as you may well be able to tell. So public cloud, from this diagram, you can see you've got 4 hosts talking to one cloud. Now, this has introduced this whole new model of everything being abstracted from yourself. Okay, so everything that you're creating, virtual machines, servers, operating systems, websites that you're hosting, containers, any of that is all going to be dealt with by the cloud service provider. You don't have anything on premise. You're not hosting anything. You haven't got your AI model running in a server behind me. Not at all. It's all done at a different location. So what is it? So it's built and controlled and maintained by a third-party cloud provider. Okay, so like I said, you're completely abstracted away from you as a user. It's all onto the burden of a cloud provider. It's all dealt with by them. General public availability. So the complete opposite of private cloud. So a public cloud is where Joe, Bob, and Jill down the road, they can all use this model. They can all use the same cloud as I'm using, and it introduces a term called multi-tenancy, where you might have an application running on the same server that I might have an application running on. Anywhere in the world. It doesn't even need to be in the UK. It could be all the way over in America, but we could still be using the same server. And it's super, super scalable. This is one of the best models to use if you want a scalable infrastructure. You don't have to pay for the new servers. You just have to pay for what you're using. Okay, you throw up your application and lots of people decide to hit your website and use your website. That then automatically scales with the cloud, with the service provider. Okay, you then don't have to go off and buy a new server. It will just automatically scale up for you. They're really, really quickly provisioned, these applications. So again, you don't have to buy the biggest, beefiest server. You can just rent one from a cloud service provider and distribute your applications. And it could be the most powerful computer that you've ever seen in your life that you wouldn't be able to afford locally if you bought it as hardware to put on your desk. And of course, I've already mentioned you only pay for what you use. You're only paying for the compute time or anything that's executing up in the cloud. You only pay for that. You don't have to pay for anything that's not being used. So how does a hybrid cloud work? Well, very much like a hybrid car with a combustion engine and electric engine. You have the best of both worlds here. You've got public cloud and private cloud mixed under one roof. It is the most flexible of them both. Now, what I mean by this is you could have your applications running in the public cloud. You could have your website front end or some server running something for you up in the public cloud. And then in the private cloud, you could have your database completely locked away in a storeroom behind you or over the road, or maybe in both places. That way your data is super safe. And not to say that your front-end application isn't safe, but it's certainly more accessible to the open world in a public cloud. Okay? Think about governments again. They may have their website running up in the cloud, in a public cloud, but they certainly won't have their database stored anywhere but in their back room, as far as I know. So then how does this come to multi-cloud? What's the fourth option for cloud models? Well, of course, this diagram sums it up perfectly. It's pretty much what it says on the tin. You've got the use of many different clouds for one application or for one model, one infrastructure. You could use the best of everything at this point. You get lots of different features by doing this, and it can also save you money because cloud providers tend to, create ecosystems within their own sort of housing, within their own sort of bucket. They have their own services that work really well with one another. However, some of the features for one service might not be as good for the equivalent service that somebody else is running. So it is generally using the best of each one that you can find. However, this has its drawbacks, and I have personally used this model, and I have found that the biggest downside is compatibility. So like I said, you can have a lovely ecosystem of services that are running really lovely under one roof, but you might want to try a different service and a different cloud provider. Well, you might have some issues going outside of their ecosystem. Of course, cloud providers make services which work really, really well with their own services. You try and go outside that box, it can get a little bit dangerous, but that's not to say it's not getting better. Vendor locking used to be a really, really big problem, but it's not anymore. So there's a lot more standards in place. So common interfaces that you're using, common data types, common ways that you can talk to one another. And of course, the competition is allowing it more and more as we get open and more accepting of a multi-cloud model. So Carlotta, I'm going to throw this one out over to you.
Thank you very much, Liam. Thanks for this great overview of what the cloud is. And thanks to all the student ambassadors that have helped us in demystifying this word, what is cloud. But now that you have a general understanding of what the cloud is, I would say let me it a little bit more practical and have a short tour in the Microsoft cloud, which is Azure. So let's go with our first demo. Let me switch to our first demo.
When you start working with Azure Cloud, the first tool you'll be using is the Azure portal. The Azure portal enables you to create and manage the resources you need using an intuitive graphical user interface. But what is a resource? A resource is nothing more than an instance of the service you'd like to consume. Resources are grouped into resource groups in a way that you can store resources related to the same solution into a single container. Think about it as a folder containing all the files related to a single project. To explore all the type of services you can create and use, let's click on the arrow here. On the left side of this page, you have a list of categories that help you identify the service you are looking for. There are a lot, I know, but instead of going through each category, I just want to give you a practical example of a solution requiring different kind of resources. Let's imagine that we wish to develop a web application for our university called University of Nowhere that enables the student to log in and access their personal information regarding enrollment status, the list of the exams with corresponding scores, and other documents. We'll need, first of all, a resource of type compute, like an Azure App Service, for example, which will host the running application itself when we'll deploy the local front-end and back-end code to the cloud. Also, if we wish to have our application on a custom domain, like universityofnowhere.com, we need a networking type of resource, and in particular, an Azure DNS to map our custom domain to the public IP address of the app. In addition, we will need a database type of service like an Azure Cosmos DB to store and manage all the data related to each student. Also, we'll need to make this app secure by managing users' logins with Azure Active Directory and storing app secrets and credentials in a secure place like an Azure Key Vault. Lastly, we'll need to monitor the performance of our app, tracking errors and warnings for debugging purposes using an application insights, for example.
Great. So going ahead, as you may have guessed, there's tons of things you can do with Azure, right? But since we have only a few minutes left for this session, I wish to show you some of the services I work with in my daily job, which make up one of the category I didn't mention before in the previous example, which is Azure Artificial Intelligence or Azure AI. So Azure AI has at its core machine learning, and machine learning is a data science technique that allows computers to use existing data to forecast future behaviors, outcomes, and trends, which make apps and devices smarter. For example, when you shop online, machine learning helps recommend other products you might like based on what you have purchased. And if you are not familiar with machine learning modeling, but you still want to integrate some AI capabilities to your solution, in Azure you can rely on pre-built API models called cognitive services. Cognitive services empower your application with specific functionalities, like enabling your app to extract text or a caption from an image, or translating text into a synthetic voice that sounds quite natural. So let's go ahead with the second demo for this session to have a tour of Azure AI services and its capabilities.
Let's now see some cognitive services in action in a real-life context by relying on the AI demos you can find on aidemos.microsoft.com. Let's start with the language understanding service, also known as LUIS, which is a conversational AI service that applies custom machine learning intelligence to a user's natural language text to predict the overall meaning and pull out relevant detailed information. An example of what you can build with LUIS is given by this app here which uses language understanding capabilities to interpret a command from a user and adjust the lighting of the house accordingly. Let's play the role of the user and let's, for example, ask to the lighting system to give us light for cooking. And let's look at the result. So the lighting system, which embeds the language understanding model, turned for us the light in the kitchen, which is what we asked. Let's try another sentence. For example, I need more light to concentrate on my work. Again, our expectations have been met because the lighting system turned lights in the home office here. And lastly, my favorite one, please call Batman. And as a result, we can see this great lighting from the roof calling for Batman. What is happening here? This app is calling the LUIS API with our sentence as input, and the API is giving back as answer the intention of the user extracted from the command and some keywords that the model learned to associate with house rooms, like the term work with the office room, for example. I know this may look as magic, but I really encourage you to start experimenting with language understanding and building your training dataset, including the intentions and the keywords you expect from the users of your app. Also, let me showcase another cognitive service which is called Text Analytics, which could also help you grab what's behind the scenes of LUIS. Text Analytics, in fact, is a service aimed to get insights from text using natural language processing, like the sentiment of the text or key entities from a sentence. But differently from LUIS, for most of its functionalities, Text Analytics rely on pre-trained general-purpose models that do not need you to create a training dataset from scratch. Let's directly call the API service here, and let's use this message. Saturn is the 6th planet from the Sun and the 2nd largest in the solar system after Jupiter. That's why it is one of the most fascinating planets for me, and I would love to know more about it. Let's click on Analyze it, and let's look at the result. So the result is that the sentiment is positive with 99% of accuracy, which is exactly what we expected from our model. But let's go further. The entity extraction function of Text Analytics that we can try here is able to recognize common words, names, and places from a text, as you can see here highlighted in blue. It can point you to the Wikipedia page to learn more about it. So if you can click here on the sun, you will have the result on Wikipedia of the sun research. Similarly, the Bing entity search looks for these entities on Bing. So you can have here the result of the research of the term sun on Bing, as well as a summary card with the main information. What I've seen so far is a small subset of very useful features which leverage on AI to make your apps smarter. However, if you are already familiar with the AI applications, they might not surprise you so much. But what if I can tell you that there's a machine learning model available on the cloud, able not only to understand natural language, but also to generate it? Let's go beyond. What if I can tell you that there's a machine learning model that can explain how other machine learning models work? For example, if I give in input this machine learning model this sentence, the difference between supervised and unsupervised learning is, I get as output a definition of supervised and unsupervised machine learning. You can observe from this output that how natural sounds it, the answer to this question. And also, you can see here that the result of this demo varies each time based on the dynamic nature of the AI model, since there's no pre-configured prompt as for Q&A Maker technology, for example. So if I click again on this input, I get a slightly different result. These kind of models, called transform-based generative language models, are trained with tens of billions of web text tokens and can achieve human parity across a series of tasks. They can generate words to complete open-ended textual tasks, as in this case, generate direct answers to questions, and also summaries of input documents. The one we tested here is called NLG Turing, released by Microsoft in 2020 and predecessor of OpenAI GPT-3 model that you can also test as cognitive services in private preview.
So if we intrigued you enough with this overview and you want to start exploring the cloud yourself now, you can benefit actually from a free Azure grant for students. And to request this benefit, you just need to navigate to the link you see on this deck, click on the Start Free button, and then validate your account with a university or school email. No credit card is required to register, and also in that page you can also have a look to the 3 Azure services you can explore. For example, you will find some cognitive services like Louis we just explored in the Azure AI demo.
Wow, thank you, Carlotta. That was a really, really good demo. I really enjoyed that one. Sentiment analysis is so powerful, and you can see there's so many good use cases for it. One that I see most often is fake news. It's certainly like one of those things which comes through, it sort of scans it and then tells you flags yes or no, kind of absolutely brilliant. Absolutely love it. Great demos. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam.
Right then. I think that's the end of our session, isn't it? Yes, that was the end of our session. So what's up? What's next?
Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Carlotta. That was a very great intro on what is the cloud and, the demo and all that stuff. So thank you so much. So next we have another workshop, and we are here joined by Sandro, who is a Microsoft Gold Student Ambassador. He's going to tell you all about getting ready with GitHub or GitHub, however you pronounce it. Sandro will tell us the exact pronunciation. And with that being said, Sandro, you can lead that one.
Okay, thank you for having me here today. I think I just switched to the PowerPoint presentation, and I will tell you today something about Git and GitHub, how to work with that, the motivation behind it. Yeah, so you're ready to software development. My name is Sandro. I'm Gold Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. And in my other time, I'm also research assistant and PhD student at the University of Stuttgart in Germany. Apart from that, I'm a huge Raccoon fan, as you can see on the slides, and I love this bit Raccoon. Okay, let's start with a brief motivation. Here we have Eve and, the other one should be called John. I think it's renamed later on, and they are developing on an application, which is currently just one slide right now. But you can imagine more slides. And it happens that both have their own version on their local notebook, PC, whatever, where they develop, and the overall approach is they develop and then they put the stuff they developed together to put the application. So maybe Eve changed something on the file and John adds a new file, a second file, and change something different on the file already existent. Then we have already different versions, which brings us to the problem when we want to join them again to put the second version of the application. I mean, if we have just separate files, that's usually easy. You put them together and you're done. If you're having the same file, then it's getting more complicated. So the question is how Eve and John can match their versions, and especially what happens if they change something in the same file, or even worse, on the same line, something differently. Because then they have to decide which version do we take, and doing this by hand or with, for example, OneDrive, something like that. This is just cumbersome, error-prone, and then you're not doing this in modern software development anymore. Yeah, the solution is rather old right now. It's called version control systems, and Git is one of those version control systems. There are also others, but we're interested in Git today. So just imagine we have here, let's take a look on the laser pointer. with here Eve's local machine and John's local machine. And there's it's called remote in Git, which is basically the server where everything is collected together. And on the remote, we have already one version of our application, and both locals are basically empty. So if Eve wants to get this remote version on her PC, she can use the git command clone, which does nothing else than take the latest version of the remote and make basically a copy on the local PC. And this is also called local then. So just for notation reasons, here in the dashed line, we'll discuss changes on the file which are not checked in to Git, which I explain later, and the clear strike-through line, it's the local Git version. Yeah. So Eve cloned the Git repository. She has it on her local machine now, so you can do everything you can also do with the remote in the local to make it a bit more simpler. And then Eve changes her lines, whatever she wants to do. And this change is not recognized by the local Git. To recognize the changes, she has to add them. So by adding, using the git add command, you can add changes, which are then marked as, okay, for the next commit, we put them into the local. And if she uses the commit command, then those changes are added to the local. So then we start here a new version of the local file with the changes we added before. And at the end, you can imagine such a graph where you have nodes for the different versions, and you can also go back and forth between those versions, and you can see diffs between those versions, which is rather nice because if you screwed up at some point and you don't know how to resolve it, just go back and do it slightly different. Okay, so what's the problem now? Eve has her new version on the local machine, but it's still not there in the remote. To get it back on the remote, she can use the push command just to push the local version, the latest, on the remote. Okay, let's take a look at another example. Now John has some local changes himself. The remote is the version of Eve. And John can use the pull command to get this remote version into the local version. And you can see here it's turning from black to blue. Yeah, if the changes are different, so for example, if Eve changed line 10 and John did not do something at all on this file, it's merged automatically. If there are changes in the same file, it might happen that John has to do something which we discuss later on. But for now, John can pull the version into his local. It's a new version here, and afterwards, he can push it back to the remote. So for the first example, we have no conflict. It's merged automatically, as I have explained it. It's more complicated for the second example. Here we have an orange code. So John changed something in the file. If he pulls the remote version, then there is something which we call merge conflict. So John has to resolve it. And when we take a look at the graph, it basically looks like that. We have two versions, and the question is, what is the outcome? And what we do in software development, we use diff tools to resolve this merge conflict. There are different tools. Some are better, some are worse. Often it comes to the personal taste, and these tools show basically what is similar in both files, what the blue changes are, what the orange changes are. And you can say for every change, okay, I want to take the left one, the right one, the original one. Yeah, and so you can resolve it. Okay, I hope I still have some time for a short demonstration, because that was all from the theoretical background. Obviously, Git can do a lot more stuff, but for that we lack some time. Yeah, first I want to show you a bit about GitHub. GitHub is basically a provider for Git. So you can host your repositories there, your remote, and you can access via GitHub. And for our short demonstration, we want to just create a new repository. So if you log into GitHub, then you're landing on basically this page. You have an account, and there you can create a new repository here, or by using the plus button, you can choose whether it's a public repository or a private repository. The difference is private repositories you can only see, others can only see if you invite them, and public repositories are, as the name states, publicly available, so everyone can see them, everyone can clone the repository and do stuff. Not everyone can push to the repository. That's a different chapter. Okay, let's create the repository. Just make it private for now. It's called Microsoft-Student-Summit-Git-Demo. The name has to be unique for your account. So my account is my last name and something with my first name. And then you get here an example what you can do. Okay, creating this results in not having a README file, so we have to create it by hand. But at first we need to clone the repository. So it already states here, we want to clone it. Let's just take another repository for now that you can see the usual look like. I don't know, something like homepage test. Usually it looks like that if you have some content there, and then you go to clone. You have here the option to clone via HTTPS or SSH. If you use so you should use the SSH option. For that you need an SSH key into your settings somewhere here. Let's copy the code, and we use the CLI for now, and I will enter git clone, paste. Behind that you can also name the folder. So this is called homepage test by now, and my SSH key has a password, so I enter that. It's taking a few seconds. Okay, then we can open it. How was it called? Homepage test. And let's just open it with Visual Studio Code for now. Okay, so we have here a README file, and let's do something like another sample. You can already see in Visual Studio that I changed here something, and I can go back to iterm, which is my command line interface, and I can get status to see, okay, we have modified the README, and then I use git add README.md, and I can add a no, the message is for the commit. Apologies. So I stated it. Can take a look at it in the status. It's now modified and staged. And then we use the git commit -m to get a message, add some sample text. You should always use commit messages, and you should state them by thinking this commit will, and you continue the sentence in the message. This is a good practice. Okay, so git status again, and we can see, okay, our branch is ahead by one commit. Use git push. We use git push to get it back to the GitHub remote on the server. I have to enter my password again, which is quite annoying, but then it's pushed. And if we take a look here, so this is still the old version on the web page. We have here sample posts, and the change we just did is not there already, but if I reload, then we can see here another sample, and we can also take a look in these branches stuff, so you can create other branches. Yeah, you can take a look at the commits, go back to the commits, stuff like that. So if you are lazy as I am, you usually don't want to use the command line, except you're a fan of command lines, but there are tools for that. You can, for example, use the GitHub desktop app. Many people like that. I personally prefer the Git Kraken app. I think it's just preference. They usually can do the same thing. This is another repository now. If you clone your repository in Git Kraken, for example, you can see here all those branches and the commits and where they are merged. You can see the commit messages. And if I want to go, so currently we are here. And if I want to go back to whatever, to this commit made by Modellbahnfreak, then we can just right-click, check out this commit, check out successfully. And then this is the version we now have in our local environment, and we can continue work from there. Okay, do I still have some time? Or, yeah, maybe I have some time. If not, just interrupt me. Yeah, what can we do now? There's also something called pull requests. I can show it to you on an example for a second. So if you want to commit to push to a repository which does not belong to you, or if you work in teams, you usually also use this, then you don't directly push to the master branch, but you use, you create pull requests. So you create first a branch and you work on the branch. For example, this feature issue status branch. I just used it as this is an example. And this is basically when we take a look at the Git Kraken, something like.
Hey, Sandro.
Here. Hi.
Hey, it's Korey. Yeah, just 1 minute left. So if you want to wrap up.
I think that's enough. Yeah, so you do your commits, and afterwards you create a pull request. There are lots of resources how to do that on the internet. They look like this. And there you describe what you did. You can see the commits, you can see the file changes. And the maintainer of the repository, which in this case, I am it myself, they can review it and accept or reject. And if it's accepted, you can merge the stuff or do something else with it to get it back to the main branch. Okay, yeah, so thank you for listening. I hope you learned something. You can always reach to me if you want to chat a bit about my research or something else. You can reach me on Twitter, LinkedIn. You can take a look at my GitHub or watch some nice research YouTube videos. And I wish you also a pleasant remaining Student Summit. Thanks.
Thank you, Sandro, for the amazing intro to GitHub. I think people found it very useful. And of course, definitely reach out to Sandro if you do have any questions. But we now have to move on to the next workshop, which is by my colleague, Microsoft Cloud Advocate, Someleze Diko. And the workshop will be about deploying a resume site with Azure. And right now, I'm going to let Someleze take the lead.
Thank you so much, Hadeel. We saw how amazing GitHub is and how simple you can actually start using it from Sandro's presentation. So what I want to do today is to actually show you how to launch a resume website to the cloud with GitHub and Azure. So my name is Someleze Diko, and I am an academic cloud at Microsoft. I was previously a Microsoft Student Ambassador, just like Sandro, and I learned most of my skills from the Ambassadors program. So be sure to apply for that as well if you're a student. Right, so what do I have in store for you today? So I'll just quickly jump right into it and show you how to create a resume website on GitHub. And then on a later stage, during the presentation, you will see how to actually deploy it and make it globally accessible to anyone that you want to share it with. So to follow along with what I'm actually doing, I'm sure on the chat, the link that you see on the screen is also shared with you so that you can be able to see the step-by-step process of building this resume website on GitHub and also how to deploy it on Azure. Right, let me quickly switch to my browser. You see on the left-hand side of the screen, so I have two browser windows opened up. One is actually the step-by-step that I was talking about on the link that you can follow along on. And then on the left-hand side of my screen is my repository. So I know Sandro touched a little bit on how to actually create your own repository. So in this case, it's more looking at a scenario where you want to have a resume that is globally accessible so that you can be able to share it with your recruiter. No more sending those PDF documents or Word documents to the recruiter. You just want it to be globally accessible. So how can you do this? Let's use GitHub. In this case, you will create your own repo. Mine is called My Resume. And within that repository, you'll be able to create 3 files. One is an index.html file. It's blank, don't worry. A style CSS so that you can be able to style the skeleton of your HTML file, and a code swing allows you to preview the changes that you actually make to your resume or your HTML file within GitHub so that you can be able to see where exactly are you changing, and you can keep track of the changes that you actually make. If you're not familiar on how to add files within your GitHub repository, what you can do is you just click on that button at the top of the screen, you can see there. And when you say add file, you create a new file, and it will take you to a window where you can give your file a name, and then you can commit the changes. Right. Within this step-by-step process, obviously, it actually tells you which steps to follow. We've covered on how to create your own GitHub repository from Sandro's presentation, and also created empty files, which is your index HTML and your style CSS file and your code swing file. The next part is to actually edit this. How do we do this? In a case where we don't want to follow along with what Sandro was doing and running Visual Studio Code on your machine, you can actually run it on your browser. How can you actually do that? So you have about 2 options. One, you can click on your keyboard and you press the dot key, and then it will take you to the Visual Studio Code that is on the browser, or you can go on the tab there at the top, replace .com with .dev, and then this will instantiate or initiate your Visual Studio Code editor on the browser so that you can be able to edit this code. So back when I was still a student, I was not aware that you can be able to do this, and I had to always, whenever I have a new machine, to install Visual Studio Code on my laptop, even though I needed to quickly present for my presentations on campus. Right. So you don't have to worry about getting started. You can choose your themes and all of those things. What we are currently focusing on today is to actually look at the files that we need to create for our GitHub repo. So you can see this, my resume, and you'll see that only the README file is there. Right, so what can you do now? In this case, you can add a new file, right? Even if you don't add it onto your GitHub repo, you add a new file within the Visual Studio Code editor. So I'll just quickly hit refresh here so that we can get rid of the errors that we have, and then you can quickly connect to GitHub. And you can see that all of the files that I was talking about earlier on that I created, which are blank, are visible there. So if you have that very same error again, you will just need to click on refresh on your browser, and then that will be quickly resolved. So in this case, I'll just remove the getting started. The first step on the step-by-step process is to actually edit the index HTML file, right? So the index HTML file, I won't be writing any HTML code, unfortunately, on the session because we wouldn't have much time for it. If I go to the right-hand side of the screen, I open that GitHub repository that has the steps on how to create your resume website on GitHub. So the first step, or step number 4, is to actually edit the HTML code for the index HTML file. So you can quickly just copy this. You can see the skeleton of your resume on the screen, and then you can just copy it and go back to that other tab or go back to that browser window and paste that code in. Right, let me collapse that, and then part is add some styling to your structure or to your skeleton for your resume. Obviously now you just have that very resume that is not really styled properly and it's not looking really good, and you wouldn't be able to share that with your recruiter. So you need to style it a little bit. We all know that you cannot have an HTML page that is not styled properly, because at the end of the day, that is not really user friendly. Right. Step 5 on this is to actually add your styling. How can you add that? You can go on the step-by-step process with the link that is shared on the chat and follow along with the steps and copy the code that is already written there. What we need to change now is the style CSS file, and then we can just copy in and paste our code right into that specific file. And then last but not least, what we need to update now is the CodeSwing file. As I mentioned earlier on, CodeSwing allows you to preview all of the changes or keep track of the changes that you are making to your resume file. So we will copy the code here and paste it in on our CodeSwing file. Awesome. So what I would do, which I always like to do almost every single time whenever I'm working with anything, I always make sure that the indentation or whatever formatting that is kept within my HTML files or your JSON files or your CSS files is proper, so that you don't run into any issues when you go along. Right. The next step now is to actually add an extension within your repository or within your resume. This extension is a CodeSwing extension, so that you can be able to take advantage of CodeSwing and be able to preview all that you will make for your specific resume. So I'll quickly check on my index.html file and then go to extensions. What are extensions? Just look at them as plugins for your specific code or whatever solution that you're actually building that will actually help either make your solution much more better. For an example, if you're just building using Python, as you can see all of the different extensions that are showing on the marketplace, you'll be able to use all of those extensions within your GitHub repository or within your VS Code. Right. We are searching for CodeSwing, and then obviously you will need to click on CodeSwing and install it. Once you install CodeSwing, and then you can be able to start making changes. Hooray, it's already installed. It took just 1 second to install that extension. So once you have it installed, you have to go back to your HTML file or go back and make some few changes there and see if your CodeSwing would run properly. So either you would want to change, let's say for an example, you want to change the name, or you want to change, let's say you want to change your road, you want to change your contact number or anything. So in this case, I'll change the title and make it to my name. And then obviously you're not going to be able to see that because it's just the title of the page. Normally, whenever you're running websites or web pages on your browser, there's always titles that are on that specific browser. So that's how you know which browser you're on and which page you're on within that specific website. So how do I change your name goes here? So if I look for a heading or a header, which is H1, again, I do the same concept and then you can see that CodeSwing is quickly picking up all of the changes that I'm actually making onto my code. Right, how awesome is that? You can be able to keep track of and have a preview of the changes that you're making to your resume and all of those things, so that you can have a preview before you even deploy it to Azure or to the cloud. Right, what's next? Obviously, this is a code editor. It's on the browser itself. But if you were to go back to your GitHub repository and check if the files that you have changed here have changed on your GitHub repository, you'd find that they haven't changed at all. They're still blank. How do you address something like that? So just like Sandro had mentioned to you, there are different things that happen within GitHub, and one of them is you committing your changes to your GitHub repository. He gave you a very great scenario around the different users or different avatars of people using the very same GitHub repository and being on their local machines and making the different changes. How do they do that? And how do they push it back to the main repository so that they can be able to keep track of the changes that both of them made? They actually commit those changes. How do you commit that on Visual Studio Code? As much as it's on the browser, it's a similar interface that you would have on the actual app that you would have it installed on your machine. So on the left-hand side of the screen on Visual Studio Code, you go on source control. So if I hover over that, it says source control. You click on source control and you can see that it is keeping track of the changes that we've made, and it says we've made 3 changes to our GitHub repository. We changed our index.html file, we've changed our code swing file, and also our style CSS file. So before you can be able to commit your changes, you need to stage all of those changes and then commit them to your GitHub repository so that they can be picked up, right? So I'm gonna quickly click on that plus button and it'll quickly stage all of the changes. And then now it's waiting for me to commit it to my GitHub repository. The very great thing about source control and working in a team is that whenever you're using GitHub, everyone within your team needs to understand what kind of changes did you actually make on all of the different files that are within your GitHub repository. Let's say you're working on a big project, you need to keep track of what changes were made. Other than that, you wouldn't be able to resolve some issues. So we need to put a meaningful message for our commit. So in my case, I'm just gonna say added resume details in this case, added resume details, and then I'll just quickly commit it because I just changed my name. In your case, obviously, what you can also do is to just quickly, as you are following along with this specific session, what you can do is just change all of the information that is within the HTML file to reflect your actual resume. Right, so the changes have been committed to my GitHub repository, and now I need to go back to my Git to see if they're actually picked up there. Right, you can do this in one of 2 ways. In my case, I can click on the hamburger menu, and you can see when I click on it, there's a last option that says go to repository. So this would open a new tab and it will go to the actual repository. And what you will notice is that on the details of those commits that we made earlier on, it's picking up the meaningful message that we actually made, which is added resume details to all of the specific files that we were using. Okay, now that's awesome. You have your index.html file, you have your code swing JSON file, and your style CSS file. We were able to preview it within the browser window of VS Code, but in this case, you want to share this with your recruiter or any recruiter for that matter, and you're not going to be sending them your GitHub repository as your resume, right? Because you want the actual resume to firstly present or introduce you. So you don't want to send the GitHub repository, and you also don't want to send a PDF document. How do you do that? In that case, you would take advantage of Azure. In this case, you would need to go to portal.azure.com on your browser and open a new tab within your browser, and this will take you to the homepage for Microsoft Azure, which is a cloud platform. Carlotta did a very great tour guide around what Azure is and the different things that you can do within Azure. Right. We are coming here on Azure because we want to deploy our specific resume and make it globally accessible. How can we do that? A great friend of mine, Julia Murui, actually we can use static web apps within Microsoft Azure. Exactly what are static web apps? So in that, look at our presentation, is that static web apps is actually a solution that enables you to host your web applications and develop them directly from your source code to global accessibility, just like how we did. So this takes advantage of your GitHub repository and the different changes that you actually make on your GitHub repository, just like how we did for our resume, and then deploy them onto Azure using Azure Static Web Apps, which will enable your resume or whichever web application that you're building to be globally accessible. Right. How do we actually do this? Like I said, you can be able to follow along by going to the portal.azure.com link so that you can be able to use Azure. In this case, for you to be able to deploy stuff within Azure, you would need a subscription. And when you need a subscription, as a student, you would need to sign up for Azure for Students if you haven't already. So obviously the links will be shared on the chat so that you can be able to share, to sign up for Azure for Students so that you can be able to follow along with the session. Right, let's get right into it. So firstly, you get into Azure, you are presented with options of all the resources that you have on your Azure account or all the resources that you can use or to build with Azure. So in this case, when you want to follow along with this session, you click on Create a Resource and search for static web apps. So those are the different resources that are available to you that you can create within Azure. And you search for static web apps, and then obviously you can click on Create. And once you click on Create, a list of options or list of details that you need to fill in. Firstly, the subscription, which is Azure for Students. Once you have signed up for Azure for Students, hopefully you guys are signing up as we speak. You sign up for Azure Students and then use it as a subscription when you are creating your Azure Static Web App for your resume. And then you would need to choose a resource group. So a resource group is basically like a container of all your resources that you are using for a specific thing. So if we are doing the session for Azure Static Web Apps and we want to add APIs or Azure functions, we would like to keep all of the resources that are relating to that resume static web app to be in the very same resource group. You don't want everything to be all over the place so that you aren't able to keep track of those things. So you can either create a new one or you can choose an existing one. So I'm just gonna choose an existing resource group that I have, and then you need to give your static web app a name. So in this case, I will name it my resume, just like how I have it on my GitHub repo. Obviously, you can name it anything else. And then your hosting plan, choose free, because obviously this is a personal project and you want to actually use static web apps for free and make your resume globally accessible. And then you also need to choose a region for your static web apps and Azure functions. So in this case, I'll choose West Europe because obviously I am from South Africa. So West Europe is much more closer for me to be able to access. So you would choose that region, which is West Europe, if you are within the EMEA region, because this session is for the EMEA region. And then obviously the next part is to choose the deployment details. Deployment details are where exactly is this specific information for your static web apps coming from? Is it coming from Azure or any other site? In this case, it's actually coming from GitHub. You would need to sign in with your GitHub account. I'm already signed in with my GitHub account. So if I was using this for the first time, I will click on sign in and follow the prompts of signing into my GitHub account. Right. Once you've signed into your GitHub account, organization-wise, you need to choose the name of your GitHub account or the name of your GitHub repository or your profile name. And then for repository, again, the repository that we created earlier on, which is, we'll show you on the list of options, there is different repositories in my GitHub account. So I will choose my resume, which is the one that I was using for the specific session. Then choose the branch. If you have many branches within that specific GitHub repository, you would then obviously point your Azure Static Web App to the actual branch that your resume is residing on. So I will choose main and then build presets. You can choose from different options, whether the framework that you were using on your resume is Angular or Blazor or Next.js or Gatsby. You have those options. You can specify that. But in our case, we're just going to choose custom. And then you can leave app location as is because is at the root of our repository, and API location and output location, we can leave them as blank. Then we click on review plus create, which actually validates the information that we provided to Azure so that it can be able to pick up whether all of the information is correct or whether the information about the GitHub repository is correct. And then after that, you can click on create. Once you click on create, Azure would then initialize the deployment of your static web app within Microsoft Azure, and then obviously you'll be able to see and manipulate the resource itself. So in this case, we are trying to make that very same index HTML or resume that we built earlier on to be easily accessible to anyone. So in this case, what we are trying to do with that, we are using Azure for that because you want to share a link instead of a document, and you want to just share a link to that specific resource instead of, let's say for an example, instead of you sharing your GitHub repository and then your recruiter needs to go through all of the different repositories you have on your GitHub account. Right, so the deployment is complete. I can click on go to resource. And then once it goes to the resource, I'll have all the resource details. So I can click on browse, which will open the Azure Static Web App. In this case, it says the Static Web App is live and it's waiting for the content. Right, so let's go back here. And then now we need to check if the GitHub action runs are actually happening in the background, or we can go to the GitHub repository itself. So my option is either I can click on the link here on Azure, or I can go to the repository itself and just check on what is going on there. So let's just quickly use the links that are provided to us, and you can see that there is one workflow that is happening in the background on our GitHub actions that is deploying our Azure Static Web Apps. So I'm just going to quickly zoom in so that you can be able to see that properly. And then whilst we wait for that, obviously, like I mentioned to you earlier on, you will see that this will quickly change from just a blank static web app to the custom one that we made on our repository, which is all of the things that we added there.
Yeah, sorry, we need to wrap up just soon. Sorry for disturbing. Yeah.
No worries. Yes. So quickly, once the GitHub actions, then we'll actually see our resume quickly that we actually built online. So if I quickly click on refresh, you will see that now our resume has been deployed, and you can share this link with your specific recruiter or whichever company that you're applying to for that specific job. Right, basically that is how you actually build a resume using GitHub and also deploy it onto Azure. Right, that's what we did. Basically, the summary of the session is that we looked at creating that resume website on GitHub using github.dev, which allowed us to use VS Code on the browser. And on top of that, we did not need to install or open a application within my machine. So if you follow along, you do that too. And then we then created an Azure Static Web App to host our site and setting up a GitHub action to automatically deploy that. So what happens is that if you update that code in the background of your resume and add more details on that whilst you have the static web app deployed, just don't worry about going through the process again. It will just automatically pick it up. Thank you so much for attending this session.
Thank you, Somalese. This was a wonderful workshop. I'm pretty sure everyone, you opened the eyes of everyone on Azure Static apps. And again, thank you again for everything. Next, so since we're almost going to be wrapping up very soon, we have next the Imagine Cup panel with Liam and who was it? It was Jennifer Holland, yes, who's a Microsoft Student Ambassador. Thank you, everyone, and I will let Jennifer and Liam take this one.
Hey, thank you very much. Well, that was a brilliant session, Somalese. Thank you. And great to have everybody still on the stream. There's been hundreds. So we're joined today by Jennifer. We've got Zane, we've got Tudor, and Hua. And I'm going to let Jennifer take this away, because you're the host, and we're here to help.
Great. Well, hi, it's great to see so many students here today. My name's Jennifer. I'm a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador from Scotland, and I'm here today to host alongside Liam. Earlier on, we had the Imagine Cup launch video, and now we've got the Imagine Cup panel. I'm here today with Zane, Hua, and Tudor, who are all previous Imagine Cup. Some of them are runners-up. We've got a winner here as well. And I would like to pass it over to them. I'd like them all to introduce themselves. And our icebreaker question, how would you sum up your Imagine Cup experience in one word? So Zane, would you like to start?
Perfect. Thank you for having me. Okay, so my name is Zan Samdani. I'm the CEO and founder of ExoHeal, where we are combining neuroscience with robotics and Azure technologies to help paralyzed patients recover 30 to 50% faster at an affordable rate. To sum up my Imagine Cup experience in one word, that's a difficult question. I like that. I would say that the experience was very introspective, right? So throughout the Imagine Cup journey, we kept on realizing things about our own project that we had not realized earlier, right? So through Imagine Cup, we got to look at our startup. We got to look at everything that we were working on from many different lenses, and that has basically helped us shape our trajectory for the future right now.
Great. Who wants to go next?
I could go. So hello, I'm Tudor. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Manuscrito. We are building a mobile app for tablets to help children learn handwriting in a fun and interactive way. My word for the Imagine Cup experience would be amazing, probably because we didn't have much expectations, but in the end, it was just amazing, as I previously said.
I guess I can go next. So hello everyone, I'm Hua Tian, and me and my team was selected as the Imagine Cup 2024 World Top 2 winner. We designed an AI-powered mask to help people communication with each other under pandemic time. And my Imagine Cup experience could be summarized like also very fun and very interesting because I expand my network and to meet many people all over the world. And also I get to challenge myself to learn something new. Like I get close to the area I never know before. So I think it's a very good opportunities to grow up and to improve yourself.
Yeah, great. Well, we're all really looking forward to hearing about your experiences in this panel. I think that a really good place to start would be to talk about what got you all interested in the Imagine Cup in the first place and what motivated you all to join. So Hua, why don't you start?
Yeah, sure. So my motivations for Imagine Cup, because firstly, it was high reputation competitions and it was really attractive. You can finally meet many people, like meet Pablo and meet many amazing mentors and tutors during the competitions. And also you can receive lots of support from the community. So I think that was amazing opportunities. And also, me and my teammates are very interested to do something interesting and to run our creativity wild. So we think to come to join the Imagine Cup could be a very good chance.
Great. Tudor, why don't you go next?
Yes. We first heard about Imagine Cup from some of our teachers. We heard their experiences. We heard what an amazing journey they had. And we said we have to try for our own. So we were very motivated by the fact that it's an international competition, the fact that we can meet and discuss with students from all over the world and just see how they are trying to build a better world and what problems are they seeing and how are they trying to solve them to make an impact in their community and in the world.
All right, I guess I'll go next. So I was introduced to Azure technologies at a hackathon in Saudi Arabia, and I've been fascinated by the technology ever since. Subsequently, Imagine Cup was right around the corner when we started incorporating these technologies within our platform. And basically speaking, the Imagine Cup provided the team with the unique opportunity to take up the challenge and take this leap towards the digitalization of rehabilitation therapy. Through Imagine Cup, we were able to gain access to invaluable resources such as mentorship, query resolution, Azure technologies, etc. And by using these, we were able to speed up the development process and refine our go-to-market strategy. And in addition to this, we also got the opportunity to showcase our idea on a much more global scale and also raise more awareness about the issues faced by paralyzed patients.
Yeah, all three of you have done really amazing things through the Imagine Cup. I think everyone always sees the end product. A lot of the time we don't get a glimpse into the process. So I was wondering, did the three of you, did you ever struggle with, we were talking about imposter syndrome earlier on, the three of you ever struggle with that or feeling like you weren't good enough? Do you have any stories you'd like to share around that?
I could start. I think the imposter syndrome is easy to come to each of our minds because we live in a world where we are usually comparing ourselves too much. But in those moments, I try to remember that quote, that comparison is the thief of joy. And I try to remember that I should be grateful for the things that I wished a couple of years ago. And now I'm doing, but not in a perfect way, but it's still fine. Those three things. Try to not compare that much and be grateful.
Yeah, thank you.
So I guess I'll go next. So I used to struggle with imposter syndrome a lot back in the day, and it was just this, and as Turo just mentioned, it was just this constant state of comparison with other people, comparing myself, and basically not being in belief that hey, that I was worthy of these awards or I was worthy of the impact that I was making. Eventually, what I realized is that instead of focusing on instead of focusing on exposure or instead of focusing on what other people are talking about, the thing that I needed to shift my attention to was the impact that I was having on real people. And that's what essentially helped me get over imposter syndrome. So now so now no matter what happens, my immediate thought is, okay, how is this going to help the people that I'm trying to help most? So by having that shift in mindset, I've been able to completely disregard all of the other factors from imposter syndrome trying to affect me, and I'm just able to focus on the main goal, which is to make sure that we help as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's great. Hua, what about you?
Yeah, so I think I sometimes fell into such situations, but after that, I will share my thoughts with my teammates and some friends who have the similar experience, and I will try to think about what I have grown and what I have learned from these competitions, and trying to internalize them and let the perfectionism go, and just to think about myself and do not compare with others, and just to celebrate the success, I would say.
Yeah, great. Well, I think I'm sure the three of you will probably agree a really big part of the Imagine Cup is adaptability and being able to change and adapt as you progress through the competition. I'd like to ask, what were some challenges? Would you like to share some challenges that you came across and how you overcame them? Tudor, why don't you start?
Yeah, so one of the challenges was trying to adapt our solution to as many places as possible. Initially, we started with a solution that required internet. Then we realized that we are minimizing the market quite a lot. And then we tried to come up with a solution to make sure that we really make sure that our mission is accomplished, to help as many kids as possible to learn handwriting. So that's one thing that we really needed to implement, functionality without internet.
I could go next. So for my team, I think the biggest challenge is the team collaboration, because in such time we are under a pandemic time. I was in Sweden and my teammates are in China. So there is a huge time difference, and it is really hard to work remotely. But after that, we think about it and we come up with a time plan to make up a timetable to make everyone be sure about their own responsibility and set up like checkpoints to see if we finish our deliverables. So that's thanks to that we hand in our deliverables in time, and yeah.
All right. Challenges. Oh, we've come across so many. Okay. I just can't seem to pick one, but overall, a challenge that we faced recently was to the best way that I can describe this is that we realized that we were moving too fast, right, as a startup, and that we needed to slow down. So the challenge over here was to figure out on how we should be restructuring our timeline and to basically prioritize the necessary tasks first, so that we're able to build up a stronger foundation for what we do later on. So this was our primary challenge at the moment, and yeah, and I'm glad that we've been able to figure that out.
I think that it's great to hear about that process and how it worked. Now that you have, you're able to look back on your Imagine Cup experience. If you could travel through time and go right back to the start, what is advice that you would give to yourself before you started the Imagine Cup? Zane, why don't you start?
The number one advice that I would give to myself would be to be more open to newer perspectives, right? So basically in the Imagine Cup, what had happened was we had approximately I would say 4 mentors at one point, right? And we were getting a lot of really crucial and really helpful advice, right, for our pitch, for the startup in general, and how we should be moving forward, right? And to accept. And for some of these aspects were really different from what we had planned out so far. So the one advice that I would give to myself would be to be more open to these perspectives, right, and try to understand for ourselves how we can best utilize Imagine Cup as a platform.
I think that's really good advice for everyone that's going to be taking up Imagine Cup this year as well. Tudor, why don't you go next?
Yeah, my main advice would be similar to what Zain said. So it might sound cliche, but it's to dream bigger, because while we had our journey on Imagine Cup, we realized that we can do much more things in a much bigger way, and that's just it. To start with a fresh perspective, to dream bigger, to know that if you have the right support, and we really got it from the mentors, you can really do much.
I think the suggestion from my side is it's better to start as early as possible. Don't make yourself rush, because the time is limited, and you will feel there is lots of suggestions from external side, like from the mentor side and from yourself, but you don't have time to do so. So it could be a very pity. So I would suggest you guys to move fast and take the action as soon as possible.
I would definitely like to second that one. So fun fact, we actually weren't sure if our application got submitted for the Imagine Cup in the beginning, and one of our team members had to email Imagine Cup, be like, hey, we hit the submit button, but there was an error. We have no idea if it got submitted, and this was literally on the last day. So please, yes, try and submit as early as you can.
We had something similar, so I can relate to you.
Yeah, I actually got a question that came through on Menti for using. How did it feel when you won the Imagine Cup?
I'm gonna be quite honest here, all right? So when we had one Imagine Cup, all right, there was obviously this feeling of great joy, happiness, excitement. But the feeling that I was consumed with immediately after was, okay, how do I use this, or like how do we as a team, all right, use this now to benefit paralyzed patients as early as possible, right? Because throughout the Imagine Cup journey, because of the various publications that were happening, we had received tons of requests from patients all across the globe, honestly, right, asking us, hey, and all of these people were sharing the stories on, okay, hey, I'm paralyzed. When can I have access to your device, right? Or what do you suggest that I do, right? Or doctors reaching out to us, hey, we would like to use these in our clinics, right? So my brain was immediately went to the fact that, okay, how do we make sure we make the most impact right now? So that's what was going on in my head immediately after winning the Imagine Cup.
Yeah, I think that's really great to get that perspective into your brain, and because that's a very unique experience. It's a really interesting, it's great to hear it from you. I think we have a few minutes left. Is there any words of wisdom that you'd like to give anyone that's in the call just now, that's thinking about doing Imagine Cup this year? Any words of wisdom? If someone else wants to go first.
I think I'll chime in with this one. I think everyone's done such a smashing job here. And listening to everybody sort of talk about their experience has been fantastic. But going forward, just knowing that you are good enough to submit to Imagine Cup, you come across so many teams and so many people that I think, is this idea good enough? Does it really solve a problem? And this will always go around in your head from time to time. And even when it comes to submitting, you'll press the submit button. I guess a lot of people think, you know what, they'll just throw it to the wind and forget about it for a week or two. It is just really important to remember that an idea that solves a problem is still a really good idea, and it is always worth submitting to, regardless of what you think. Just put something in. If it solves a problem, it solves a problem.
I would like to second that, Liam. So honestly speaking, I was hesitant on submitting the Imagine Cup for the past 2 years, I believe. The Imagine Cup, the Imagine Cup happened twice, and I did not feel that we were worthy enough to submit to the Imagine Cup. So definitely speaking, if you have an idea that you truly believe that can solve problem, right, a problem or multiple problems, definitely submit your idea to the Imagine Cup, because the journey itself is going to teach you so many more things.
Really is. It's a character building experience. For sure. Like going through any process like this, you're always going to build on top of. It's not just the idea. It's not just the project. It's you as a person and you as a team. So that there's multiple aspects to it. So yeah, nice one.
Judo or Waha, do you have any thoughts, wisdom for an entrance this year?
Yeah, regarding also what Liam said, just try to find a problem that you really think it's meaningful and that can have a real impact. I think that's the most important, but that's even more important than the solution, to find a problem that it's worth solving. And sometimes you might be doubtful of your idea, then just try to stop thinking, just submit it, see how it's there. And even if you don't get accepted, you will have the opportunity to see the progress of the other teams and learn from them.
I would say trying to enjoy the competition, and this is it can motivate you for the entire process.
Brilliant. Great. Thank you very much. Now I think we've hit 3 o'clock, so I think we will wrap up this panel talk. And of course, if you're still on Menti, and I can see a lot of people are still on the live stream, please do share your thoughts. What inspires you to want to enter the Imagine Cup 2023? Remember, the 4 categories for 2023 is Earth, Education, Health, and Lifestyle. So get your brains working, have a little think, and jot down what's really inspiring in those categories. And good luck to all entrants. It's been absolutely fantastic having you all on. Jennifer, you did a smashing job at hosting this. You didn't even need me. So thank you very much for coming on. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Zane, Tudor, and Huahua. Thank you for joining us from around the world. It's been brilliant to have such people on with such inspiration and such inspiring journeys that you've currently been on and that you're going to be following through. So a massive thank you. I think with this, we will wrap up the Imagine Cup. And if you want to get involved, then please do go to github.com/Microsoft/Imagine Cup for some brilliant tips, which are going to add on to what you've seen today in the Student Summit. So it is nearly that time. We've been going for 3 hours now, and we've stuck to time pretty well, I think. So well done to everybody. It's been brilliant. But before we go, we have got a few words to say. I'm going to hand it over to Hadeel and Korey, who, they ran the Imagination collaboration session earlier. So this ties in pretty nicely with the Imagine Cup that we've just been talking about. And they're going to take you through some of the pitches that you've all submitted over the past couple of hours. So without further ado, I'm going to let you take it away, and then we'll do a final wrap up right at the end.
Thank you, Lee.
Thanks.
So, as we mentioned, with the Imagination collaboration, obviously, you have sent us some amazing pitches. I think, Korey, you can agree that we had a lot of great pitches. It was very hard, I think, to pick our favorites, I think.
Oh, yeah, this wasn't an easy job, but I think we have a good range of ideas here. So it's super nice to see some diversity on what you think pet owners and pet lovers their problems can be solved.
Exactly. And we have so many creative brains here. So glad to see all the ideas coming from, lots of students. However, just because of the time, so we're going to share some of our favorites. That doesn't mean if yours is not included, it's not our favorite. Like everyone is, everyone's included. We love all the ideas.
Everyone's a winner here.
We love all the ideas. So let's talk about the first one. So have you ever found yourself confused, not knowing why your pet is behaving in a particular way? Using data and pattern recognition to recognize pet behavior patterns, Petify help you to understand your pets more. Wow. Coming from data analytics and AI kind of background, I can definitely relate to this one. And I think this is actually an absolutely amazing idea to kind of, monitor your pet's behaviors, the patterns and such. So this is a brilliant idea in my opinion. And this is actually one of my favorite Imagination collaboration pitches. So thank you to whoever submitted that one.
Yeah, and bonus points for having already a product name ready to go, it seems like.
Yeah,
so that's,
they're ready.
I really like that you wrote it as well.
They're ready to fly. Amazing.
Yes.
Perfect. Let's go to the next one.
I think we skipped one, yeah.
Yeah, Korey.
Yeah, so this one, I won't read the whole thing, it's quite long, but it's around how positive brain waves are for hormonal increase, or cortisol hormonal increase. So how about we also make a AI robotic arm to pet the arms, which I like this ending where luxury meets infinity. It just seems like such a beautiful slogan there, but
absolutely
trying to almost to some Imagine Cup robotic problems that we've solved or seen before. Maybe this is nice fitting in there with the pet lover. So I think that was a nice pitch. Nice pitch, definitely.
Very nice pitch and very nice slogan there at the end too. Love that one. Perfect. One more. So an Internet of Things device that monitors the hunger time of my pet and whistles my dog to come feed it automatically. Also alerts me to buy dog food when it's getting low. Loved this one. I think obviously with Internet of Things devices, you can do lots of things, and this is something that I think you can all relate to, and obviously an idea that is obviously could be very well used. How to use technology with your pets. Love all these ideas. Thank you for sharing, everyone. Do we have more?
Thank you.
I think that's it, right?
That is it. So we have the what are you excited for next? The story does not end here with the Student Summit. So we have a couple of opportunities and other events that might be of interest to students. Liam, I don't know if you want to hop on and when we talk about what you're doing in London.
Sure. So in London, every quarter, we run a student meetup that is dedicated just for students. And we always have talkers on sort of career journeys, where they've been, what they're getting up to, how to get started, early into tech careers, how you can get going, sort of the very beginnings of, like what we've seen today with GitHub, sort of resumes, building these kind of things out for you. So we have beginner-friendly content, which is dedicated just for students. Our next one is on the 25th of October. So if you are in London, if you are in the UK, come on down. There will be lots of pizza. There will be lots of good talks, and you'll get to meet us all in person. Because unfortunately, we are in a virtual world still for this one, but we do run in-person events at the Microsoft Reactor here in London. So the link is on the screen. It is aka.ms/student meetup reactor LDN. So that's a funky link, but this is recorded. So if you do happen to miss it, then please go back and go to that one. And we'd be excited to see you in London. And of course, they are run hybrid, by the way. Of course, sorry, I forgot to mention that. If you are not able to join us in London, it will be run through our YouTube channel, the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel.
But the virtual pizza is not as good.
It's not as good. It's not as tasty.
Oh,
I apologize.
One day we'll all be all together.
Yeah.
Yes, we will be one day.
One day. So yeah, let's talk about like wrapping up the links. Liam?
Yep, of course. So please don't forget everything we've spoken about. There's been many, many links that we've shared throughout. But again, if you want to take a screen cap of this one, you've got the register for Imagine Cup, you've got the top tips, you've got signups for students. So for Azure, where you get your free account and some free credits, you can get certified for certification credits as well. So you can get a certification for free. And you can also, I mean, we've left it off there with local link, but again, the Microsoft Reactor London student meetup, which happens once a quarter. And by quarter, I mean once every 4 months of the year. So I want to say a massive thank you to Korey and Hadeel, our co-hosts, and every other speaker today, because it takes a lot of courage to jump on a stream in front of hundreds and hundreds of people, which we have seen today. I have never done a stream with this many people on before in my life. It has been absolutely fantastic, and I really hope we have inspired you. I really hope you've learned something and that you take just one thing away today, regardless of what it is. We really hope you just take that one thing. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you in person or on our YouTube channel in the streams. Please do comment that you came to this, that you've seen us, and hopefully we will get back to you. All righty. With that one, I think we are absolutely on time. Well, 3 minutes over, but I'd like to say a massive thank you again. And
yeah, type thank you in your native language or wherever you're from.
That is a really good idea.
I saw a text submit it, so thank you. Team Sweden is represented well here. But yeah, I would love to see where we see there. Oh yes, nice.
Amazing. I'd say, in fact, I did actually see a picture of somebody with a watch party for us. So we have been on the big screen to a room of people somewhere in the world.
Wow. Hello, big screen room people. Hope you have pizza.
A big shout out to them.
I hope that's thank you. But if not, then
I think it is. Shukran. Thank you, everyone. That was thank you in Arabic for my fellow Arab speakers. Thank you, everyone. Shukran jami'an. We really did enjoy having lots of students from all around the world. And thank you to everyone who joined us on the stream. Korey, Liam, amazing co-hosts, everyone backstage, everyone, the students from all over the world. Thank you. Loved it. It was an amazing stream.
It was indeed. And we can't leave without saying a massive thank you to all of the Microsoft employees that helped put this together as well, that aren't here, that are in different regions around the world. So huge thank you. And with that one, I think we can close off the live stream.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.